Good morning, traders. How we doing out there? Who's ready to check out what's going on in the initial jobless claims? And jobless claims just came in. Let's take a look at what's happening in the market right now as we speak. We'll see. Can we make some cash today, guys? And of course, if you guys have a stock that you guys are watching today, let me know. I did see a crazy holding stock just completely ripped to the moon. We'll talk a little bit more about what's going on in the market today. Like always, guys, hey, let me know what you guys are seeing out there. Let's go ahead. Let's bring in the SPY. Let's talk about the initial jobless claims. We're getting some down action right now off of it. I'm going to bring in here the chart, and then we'll talk a little bit about the number here. Like always, guys, smash the like. We got a lot more for you guys right here on TTP Live today, guys. We'll see if the Bulls are able to hold on. Let's take a look here. Benzinga Pro brought to you at initial jobless claims coming in at 223,000 versus an expected 221,000 expected. So just there, you guys can see it, a slight increase there. The prior being 217,000. This is the number one thing that is going to be watched, I think, for initial down action in the market. I think right now we are seeing it. It's starting to happen right now. The SPY pulling back a little bit. I think today is a clear day for a pullback move. One of the ways to maybe play this on the upside is maybe play the VIX on this move, right? So I'm already thinking about taking a little shot right here as I see the SPY take a little bit of a down move here. Let's see if we really start to get some down action here, but I'm going to actually take a trade here, guys. Let me go ahead and I'm going to take a trade off of this. Like I mentioned, this is live trading off of the reaction here for initial jobless claims. So I'm feeling it here. I'm going to go with the VXX probably, or the VIX. It doesn't really matter. I mean, I could do the VIXY. Let me take a look at the VIXY here. See how that's looking. All right. Just off that kind of the 42 recovery there. Let me go to the hourly chart. You guys can see how this is pulling back off of hourly support, just undercut this area here. Now I'd like to see it hold that 90 here on the pullback and making sure that we start to get the lift off of this. So I'm going to go ahead and take a shot here. We'll see what happens here. VIXY, I have, man, spread's a little wider here. Let me go to the VIX. VXX is still super wide there on the VXX. So trying to get in here, guys, but no way getting in right now. So I could do the SPY short, right? Or I can do something like that. But we'll see what happens here. SPY, first reaction down, now bouncing a little bit. Let's see if it takes down the 605.50s. And I think we got to be watching today to see if we start to see some down action in certain names out there. But here you guys can see on the action here, guys. I'm going to actually try to shift my camera a little bit here. Just give me a second here. You guys can see the SPY. It's bouncing a little bit. Can we get it back above the 606? I think it's going to reject that 9 EMA line and start heading down. Like always, you guys call your own shots, your own trades, but that's what I'm seeing right now. So I'm even thinking about maybe playing like an SPXL to the short side of things, and I could do that or something like that, or SPXS, right? And that's like kind of the bearish side. I can long this one and look to see if this one starts to make an up move here. And just a different type of trade, right? Maybe a little bit of a scalp action here. We'll see what happens on the jobless claims. Will we get some down action here? It's only one way to find out. All right, guys, just give me a quick second here. Just trying to take a look at how the camera setup looks a little bit there. That might look a little bit better there. Let's go ahead. Let's bring it back here to main camera. All right, not too bad, guys. Was able to shift it a little bit closer, so you guys should be able to see me a little bit better. And I'm going to be working on a brand new setup, guys. I'm super excited to expand here at TTP Live. Of course, you guys know Michael Nauss has joined the team, and we're looking to keep expanding the team and bring different traders on. So you guys out there, if you guys are looking for ways to kind of talk about trading, want to come onto the show, hey, reach out to us. We're more than willing to get on new traders and talk all about the action, whether you know winning or losing. Really, at the end of the day, we can always learn from both. So if you guys have a major win you want to talk about, maybe it's been something that you killed it on yesterday and you just want to come onto the show and talk about how you went about the trade, let me know. The door's open to you guys. Like always, you guys can reach out to us in the comments. You can hit us up on Twitter. If you don't have our Twitter, you're missing out for sure. You get the playbook there. The sunrise report, of course, comes out on the Discord every single day. So that's gold that I give you guys out there. So if you're not catching that, definitely catch it every single day. All right, let's keep going, guys. Let's take a look here at the SPY, see if we're going to start to see that downfall or not. Right now, it's kind of hanging in there. Let's see if we start to get that down hit to the downside here. Based off of the 9 EMA right now, it's just kind of holding in. That's actually a good sign for the bulls, right? It's not like just a quick move down here. So the reason why I think we're in a little bit of a chance for pullback is I know a lot of people are watching these highs, right? Michael talked about them yesterday, and they're definitely coming into play, right? I mean, at this point, we're a little bit extended on the upside. You can see that there's not many times that we get far from the 9 EMA where we don't come back, right? With that light blue line, right? Yes, we can expand away, but a lot of times we're working our way back, right? So I think at this point, it makes sense for it to come back to maybe, who knows, maybe 603, could even go back to 600 here. Now, we could just continue ripping towards the 610. I just don't see that as the more likely scenario here. So with this jobless claims coming in a little bit higher, we'll also be watching Kansas manufacturing data that will be coming in at 10 a.m. But right now, this is the data showing a little bit of a spike here on the jobless claims, and it's definitely something to look into, guys. All right, guys, we're going to keep expanding here. Like always, guys, keep throwing up some stocks that you guys are watching. I see a lot of you guys joining in on Twitter or X. If you guys are enjoying this stream, hey, click the link and drop in a comment. What stock are you watching today? Let's get to the playbook today. Let's take a look at what stocks are on my radar. And I got to say something, man. It's been a little bit tough, but with the way that the action's been lately, I've been doing really good on these playbook. But the truth is, I haven't been trading them. So today, one of the things that I really want to do is make sure that I don't miss my playbook plays. So I'm going to make a new screen that's specifically just for the playbook. And I'll be referring to it during the stream. So, hey, if you guys want to take a look at those, let me know. Let's get into today's playbook action. Let's go, team. What we got up our sleeve? There's always something good here. Let's go. All right, first up on the playbook, let's talk about what stocks could possibly take a downturn, especially with the downturn in the market today. And we'll see. Does the downturn actually hold on, right? And there's a reason why I'm calling the downturn. It's just because at the end of the day, we're pretty pressed down right now. All right, so here it is, guys. Let's go with the first one that we'll talk about here. Quantum computing to the downside. So QUBT. Here. And that's one thing that I'll be looking at to see if we get that downturn today. One of the things that I can see on the hourly chart, and that's what you guys are seeing right now, right, is that this has clearly been kind of trying to get a rejection off of this kind of 12 area, right? Each time it gets to this 12 area, we kind of keep rejecting it. And now we've been up there 1, 2, 3 times, right? So at this point, I think maybe we can make one more little push here, but I'm really looking for the collapse below 10 for this to really kind of let go. If it doesn't break 10, I could still see this kind of chomping in between this and a little bit of a chop zone. But I definitely could see a QUBT start to reject that. And if you look on the daily has that support down there towards 7. It could make another step down there. It could also fill the gap back. There's no one way in this. Now, there's one thing for certain. QUBT has had the opportunity to make a run in the last couple of days and hasn't gotten it started. So we'll see what happens with this one. One thing that I would point at is the MACD here. You can see how it's like kind of fading off, but it could also start to tilt back and get closer. The reason why the lines are getting closer is because the price action is getting tighter, right? And so that's one thing that you want to keep an eye out for and see what happens if it gets back above 12. That would be the warning sign, because then you could just go right into the gap. All right, let's get out of QUBT. Let's take a look at a different play here, guys. Like always, we have different plays, and they're all based on different action, right? I talk about a lot of variables in trading, and the variables sometimes can be the story, the market story, right? And then you got the fundamentals, the technicals, and don't forget about the market. And that's what I think is going to be driving a lot of the action right here. Let's go to the next one here as we talk about a regional bank ETF, the KRE. And I've been a little bit of a bear to this thing in the past, but today I'm actually calling a potential long to the upside, right? It's going to depend on the market, right? If we don't have an update, I wouldn't be looking for this play. But if we do, there's opportunity here. Why? because I feel like if you look to the left, this did do the gap fill right back, right? And it did the undercut and rally strategy. What's the undercut and rally strategy? Well, when you have a major support area and you get a major cut down with some higher volume, if you look at the volume, how we increased there on those 2 days right here where you got the cut down, and I'll draw a little box so you could see that volume that comes in there, that's a good sign. To me, that shows a buyer buying off of the break of support versus where a lot of traders would buy on that support. So that guy is in a really great position. And what I'd like to see is now the volume expand through the resistance that we're at near, right? The near resistance. Near resistance to me is going to be closer towards the 64.25 from Tuesday's action on the 21st. So let's see if we can get through that on the KRE and start another run in some banking action. And one thing that points to me this is we'll take a look at how JPM is looking and XLF. Even though yesterday had a little bit of a weakness day, a little bit of a sideways step, that's actually good action. It didn't just rip right back down. It looked strong. And this is one of the sectors where I'm really leaning towards in the year. Overall, we got to be thinking about what kind of sectors might have a really good 2025. In my eyes, the financials are definitely one of those. All right, let's keep going, team. We'll take a look at the last one here on the playbook. Let's go to a home builder. Yes, let's take a look at here. DHI or DR Horton, right? One thing's for certain, guys, and I need to do a video on this, and I'm going to do a video on this, is the home builders are building like no others, right? I don't know if you guys see it around, but around me, and especially around kind of the West Melbourne area in Florida, it is insane the amount of building that's going on. The only thing I can compare it to is like 2007 when the housing boom was going on and they were just building left and right. Well, that's exactly what I'm seeing. And I came from Charlotte where they were doing the same thing. So it seems like in the biggest markets, they are growing and fast. So I actually see this as a long opportunity. And why? Because I don't think they're going to break anytime soon. Why did this downturn happen in November to January? Well, it happened because of two things, and two things that are very important, right? So what ended up happening is there was recent concerns about the interest rates, right? And then, of course, the potential Trump era tariffs. So both of these kind of weighed in on the stock and brought the stock down. But I think it's brought it down to a more fair price, right? A better value. You're looking at monthly support here, and I think that this is a nice level to look at for some buying to come back in. Right around the 141, maybe a little bit of an undercut there, but we're starting to bounce back. So can we get back towards 150 and start to drive back towards the 200 EMA? This is one that I definitely keep an eye out. Nice volume in the last couple of days. You can see it get pushed right back through 151.60. I like this one. It's a nice looking setup. If you look at the trend line, when we broke down to where we're at now, we're starting to make the move, and the MACD crossed over. It looks interesting here. We'll see what happens here in the housing strength. Can it continue in 2025? I think it does, but there's going to be some kind of issues maybe down the line. What's up out there, Par? It's good to see you. Good watch list like always, man. Coming in and killing it. We'll take a look at some of this watch list. I'll save it for when Michael comes on. I'm going to run through the sunrise report, but we got a lot to get through and so many stocks to talk about. All right, guys, I hope you guys appreciated the playbook. Of course, the playbook's all about getting you plays every single day. So check out our Twitter, like always, on TTP, right? If you guys don't have our Twitter, I don't know what you're waiting for. I don't even know how you got here. But definitely check out our Twitter, guys, because we put out some great information. And, of course, check out our funded traded interviews. I know that a lot of you guys check those out, and I enjoy them also, right? There's nothing better than learning from other traders that have had success. So if you're checking out our YouTube today, maybe it's the first time. Check out some of those funded interviews. I promise you, there's a lot of little tidbits that are great, great things that you could implement in your strategy. Let's keep going and we'll take a look around. Let's get to today's sunrise report. In the sunrise report, of course, telling you what stocks are moving and why. All right, of course, today everyone's watching the initial jobless claims, but later today we'll also be looking at Kansas City Fed manufacturing data expected to provide further market insights on what's going on. Of course, initial jobless claims are all about what will happen with the Fed. Of course, we'll be watching to see if we get any comments of that. But let's get into the earnings today. GE starting it off, guys, with a big rip higher, guys. And this is one stock that I can tell you right now, the boomers, they hate this stock, man. And I was seeing this stock in early 2023 and it was going into the 70s. And I could see this stock just continuing the trend higher. And they were all hating it. Why? Because they had seen so long this company struggle. Pretty much since like 2017, this company was trash, right? It was down 64%. But look where we're at now. GE has turned things around, and boy, oh boy, it doesn't want to stop. The party keeps going here as we're up there now towards almost 210, and we had a pre-market high here of 206.50. So definitely getting the strength there in Geo Aerospace. Let's talk about the quarterly earnings here with the strong quarterly results, delivered impressive fourth quarter with adjusted earnings per share at $1.32, being estimates of $1.04. The company reported sales of $9.879 billion, surpassing the expectation of $9.604 billion. Total orders here reached $15.5 billion, a remarkable 46% increase year over year. And looking ahead, GE gave some guidance here that really gave it that lift, that forecast for the fiscal year of 2025. Adjusted EPS now looking at $5.10 and $5.45 on the high end, with additions of a plan to do a $7 billion buyback plan here and projected low double digits adjusted revenue growth. Not looking bad here. GE taking off and really helping the industrials continue the liftoff. I've been talking about how this has been one of the hottest sectors. We talked about this yesterday when I also have mentioned Lockheed Martin. Would that partake into the rally? And we've seen different names take lead, right? Deere, Cat, all those names doing really well. Now I take a look to see if some other names start to partake, like maybe Honeywell continues there. Boeing even not looking too bad. If we can continue the market rally, this is an area to look for some strength. We'll see what happens if it gets to pull back today with the market move. All right, now let's move over, but stay in the industrial space. And yesterday we were clear for takeoff. Now we're clear for landing. It looks like it. Let's go to American Airlines, as American Airlines taking a big hit this morning off of their earnings. Let's get to it. American Airlines outlook dampened investor spirits here, as definitely you guys are seeing the downturn here. Let's take a look here. Sorry, I didn't have the charts up there, but there's American Airlines, and I'll show you guys really quickly. Let's just go back one step here to GE. GE, complete monster, guys. This thing had gone all the way down in the monthlies. A lot of people hated this thing, and it's made its way all the way back. All right, let's get back to it. Sorry about that on that one. Was looking and reading here, and you know how it goes sometimes. Let's go to American Airlines. They're definitely taking the big hit this morning. You guys can see it on the chart there. They got hit here as they projected wider than expected first quarter loss, causing shares to drop over 6%, despite a strong fourth quarter performance with $590 million in profit revenue of $13.66 billion. The airline's current demand and fuel prices forecasts are challenging investors' confidence. Honestly, I think this has more to do with demand than the oil. Oil hasn't been that bad. I think this just starts to do a little bit of a dampening in the industry. You guys are seeing Delta Airlines take a little bit of a pullback. United also, but United coming back a little bit stronger right now. So we'll see if we're able to shake some of this. I was just looking to maybe play Love on the upside. And this is really putting a dampening on that play. Now we'll look to see what happens here, because there's a lot of volume that has been coming into this Southwest Airlines. I think someone's playing this on the bull side, but we'll have to wait and see. Of course, this is pulling it back today. We'll see. Can it shake the news of American? Can American go green today? If the market goes green, that's one stock I'll be watching to see if it can work its way right back up to where it was, 19. If it gets back there, well, that just goes to show you they're shaking it here. Now let's go to Alaska Airlines, right? Alaska Airlines is ALK. And it's getting a little bit of a shake, right? It was making a move up, but then American Airlines earnings came out and it kind of ran into a little bit of some turbulence, right? And so they are moving on positive earnings in contrast, right? So they delivered a bright spot here with the stock rising 3% after reporting a positive net income of 71 million for the fourth quarter. They were rebounding from a loss in the previous year. So Alaska Air Group, especially with their combination, right, that they went and got to, now they're doing different routes. This has completely changed trends, right? This was a company that was struggling. Take a look at the monthly chart. It was struggling. And now what has happened? Straight up action. So at this point, I'm starting to look at this as how can I maybe catch this on a pullback? Because this has done really well. If not, how can I catch it on some trend action? Right now, it's been holding the 9 EMA very, very well. I would love to see an attempt back towards the 50 EMA and then maybe try to play this. Right now, it's closer towards 70. We'll see if it's able to hold on with the American Turbulence. All right, let's keep going. Let's go to EA, Electronic Arts. And this is a story that a lot of gamers will know, but maybe some investors won't know, right? Let's talk about Electronic Arts as they warn on revenue after the shortfall of gaming giant is slashing its full year booking guidance here as shares are dropping 7% and underwhelming performing titles like Dragon Age and the challenge of its soccer franchise, EA Sports FC, of course, that used to be called FIFA, right? And that's really where the trouble has started. I think that, a lot of people were kind of upset with EA and not trying to renew that license. It struggled for sure. And now they're really struggling. They're now expecting between 7 billion and 7.15 billion, lower than the previous projections. So really hard downside hit there for EA, and it doesn't look like this is going to stop anytime soon. This is a complete break of chart, guys, and I think that this is just a showing of what's to come in the future. EA was one of the best ever, but to tell you the truth, there's so many other kind of gaming companies coming. There's so many computer games nowadays, and Take-Two is coming out pretty soon with one of the best games expected. So this is going to be the tale of two stories. I think EA continues on the down path, and I think Take-Two continues on the up path. Now, of course, Take-Two is going to take a while to get that up path because, of course, Grand Theft Auto is not going to be coming out anytime soon. It's going to be coming out later. If anything, it's coming out in the fall of this year, but we'll have to wait and see. I would love to get this one to pull back because of EA weakness, let's say back towards 160, and then look for the 200 run. At some point, I could look for that 200 run and Take-Two this year. All right, moving on from EA, let's go to Discover. Discover, of course, DFS, and definitely just continuing to rip as credit card bills start stacking up, baby. And they're making money. That's for sure. Discover Financial impressed investors with earnings per share of $5.11, beating the estimates of $3.25. Holy crap, they're making money. The company's net income more than tripled compared to its same period last year. So, yeah, those credit card bills starting to stack up, and Discover is making that cash. That's for sure. I think we start to look to see how this affects other kind of players, right? You can take a look at different ones here now. Capital One is one that would just come to mind. Capital One, I don't trade this one often. Capital One, let's take a look there. Capital One is, there you go, COF. COF already pushing there to 200, and I could see it already looking hot too, right? And so this is a trend, guys, a trend in the financial sector, right? So right now I've been talking about how the financials could be strong and how global banks can lead, but man, we're seeing some strength right there in DFS and this area. So what do we look at? Well, we can just take a look right here, right? And so you can take a look at the leaders, right? The leaders are Visa, MasterCard, American Express. They're all looking good. This is going to help PayPal. This is going to help different names like that. So I start to take a look at the names that most people don't look at. SYF, one of those names that definitely not watched often. We'll see if the Bulls can handle the action today, but that's the Moo Moo Bull. Let's keep going. Let's see what else is out there. SoFi, another name that could continue pushing. Ally Financial is one name that I like. Credit services here that could gap down, fill, and then start to go higher. SLM. There's a lot of these that are looking strong. We'll see what happens there. All right, let's move out of that one. Let's go to Alcoa, and we'll go to ASTS in a second here. Alcoa going in here. They're talking some aluminum, guys, as Alcoa delivers solid performance here with earnings at $1.04 per share on $3.49 billion of revenue. So not a bad action here on Alcoa. We'll see what happens on Alcoa. Can it stay in this kind of push lately with the materials? It's been kind of hanging in there. I think you watch this on more of a monthly chart, right? Wait for it to start to show the peak. Wait for it to come back towards 50. If it could do that, it can have that breakout look. If it doesn't do that, I'm just staying on the sideline. We'll see what happens here in AA. All right, last one here. Definitely wanted to talk about the space mobile as ASTS. And of course, we've seen how space stocks have been really hot. This has been one that really came out of the nowhere, right? This was a SPAC, guys. It went down all the way to $2.26 and then made its way all the way up there towards like $37, $40, right? I mean, that's a 1,200% run. Now it's taking a hit. And why? Because I think the company's being smart here. They should have done this a little bit earlier, but they're right here on a 14% decline following the announcement of a $400 million convertible note offering. Of course, I'd have to go deeper into the note to kind of understand the logistics of this, but we'll see what happens as this is really taking a hit today, and we'll see if it gets hit the other space stocks, right? It's not a very similar stock, but Rocket Labs has been very hot, has made a big move. Will these start to crack? Of course, we've talked about Planet Labs. You could take a look at Black Sky. There's a lot of these space stocks that have been doing really well. We'll see what happens with these. All right, guys, that's going to do it for, of course, the Sunrise Report. Like always, guys, smash the like. We like to get through the Sunrise Report to give you guys the information that's going on in the market, why it's moving, right? Of course, you guys can get the information, the nice summary printout on our Discord every single day. So if you're not in our Discord, you're missing out, guys. Get over to the Discord. Of course, my man Tim runs that along with others, and you don't want to miss it. There's so many things, different events that they're doing, even a book club. So if you're like me, you like books, you might want to get in there. All right, guys, let's go ahead. Let's take a look around. We're going to start the show off, guys. It's 9 a.m., guys. There's a lot going on, and we'll see. Will the market come down today? Will we get some profit taking, or will the Trump rally continue running over as the bears that I don't even know why they existed last Monday were there? Well, they're definitely still getting run over. Let's see if they come back roaring. Let's start the show. It's TTP Live. Wants 200, baby.
You ready to get back to the trading action?
You aim, you shoot, and make money.
It's going to be a great day. You guys know where you're at.
What's up, traders? Let's get it started. Let's get right to the show. Let's bring on Michael. Let's take a look at what's happening in the market. Jobless claims coming in today. A little bit of a shakeup there, and it looks like we're recovering from that. And it did come in a little bit higher. We're going to break down that jobless claims a little bit further throughout the show. But what was your first initial reaction, Michael?
It's one of those things is now people losing their jobs good because it means lower rates. Or
good news, bad news, right?
I think it is. I think that everyone's kind of watching the Fed still and just saying, hey, whatever the Fed does, that's the most important thing. And if the two mandates they have is obviously inflation and then looking at jobless claims. So if jobless claims are increasing more than they thought, then they get to lower rates more. So that's better for the market, I guess. From just looking at the chart, it doesn't really care that much, right? And we're not really having too big of a move one way or another. So, and I think at the end of the day, that's really going to tell us what the individuals are after, right? If we just look at the 5-minute chart, yeah, a little bit of a crazy spike and then another little bit of a crazy spike and then just pretty much nothing. So it looks like a bit of a nothing burger. Might have been one of those that it's above expectations, but then it's always, whose expectations, right? So looking fairly well there. And same, if you look at most of what's going on in the market with the heat map and everything, the green, a lot of these are up 0.1%. A lot of these are down 0.1%. So really kind of a flat day. And I think it's because where we are in the market. Really good to see aerospace and defense moving higher, just because I own a bunch of aerospace and defense. So I'm going to be really biased there. Nuclear still continues to rip. Very interesting to see MSOS of NTAN actually doing okay. But I think a lot of it's because where we are technically, right? We have moved very far, very fast, and we are getting, this nice doji or yesterday, so a little bit of indecisive action. We are in the overbought territory. We're at resistance. So there's a lot of things technically that may have people, not worried, but saying, hey, we got to chill out here. So these create moments where no one really wants to short this thing because it's just a runaway freight train. You'd be crazy to. But at the same time, are you buying aggressively with the market up 6-7 days in a row now, right up to all-time highs, oversold, all of these things? So this may create some just kind of we talked about high volatility chop. This may actually create some low volatility chop, and it may just be, again, because we've moved so far, so fast to hit a major resistance area. So now the market's kind of digest what's going on here and try to figure out what's happening next. The other thing that I think may cause this very low volatility chop or low volume chop is we've got the man Trump speaking at 11. So right as we are going, he is going to be talking. So could just be one of those things where everyone is.
Oh no! Does this mean I have to start watching those White House press releases again? Do you remember those days?
Yeah.
We had to actually tune in for every single one of those because we didn't know what the hell was gonna be said.
What's he gonna say this time? And then it's the they say they start at 11, but it
Drink
actually
some
starts
bleach, why don't you
45
guys?
minutes. And you have to sit and you have to wait 45 minutes while this thing just will start shortly over. Yeah, so maybe.
Yeah.
And it's you got to think like a large institution. Or, Trump's giving his first address ever as president in a couple hours, right? You're at a major resistance area. The market has just screamed higher. So it's like, do you place your bets now or do you place your bets in the afternoon? So I think we might just be in one of those kind of days where, because we have, and you'll hear me say the same thing on FOMC day. When you have a big event that's happening in the afternoon, quite often you get this chop. So what I would always do when I was day trading for a living is the rule was you've got a half hour, right, to enter all your orders and to take all your trades, and then kind of go for a little bit of a walk or get away after that. So that's what I'm going to be looking pretty hard to do. Only 2 came through the algorithm to short for today. Same 2 as yesterday, right? So again, this is looking for a very basic overbought on the daily chart, and it is looking to take some trades off of that. Pretty much nothing. Wasn't very good, wasn't very bad yesterday, but we have CHRO, which was on there yesterday, and VATE, which was on there yesterday as well. So both of those have just these levels to watch. VATE, it's saying to watch around the $11 area, and CHRO, it's saying about $3 or so. So both of those need a little bit of a move higher in order to get going. Could be a good day for that, just because, again, we have this potential choppy day coming in. And I think that's going to be my bet. If I had to take a bet, if I was an options guy and I was trading options today, I'd be selling an Iron Condor or a straddle or something just around this area. I just don't know if this resolves really, really quickly. And, again, just confirming by looking at the heat map, and most of these things are within 0.1% up or down. So nothing is really, really moving too much. It is interesting, however, to see the diamonds or the Dow actually doing a little bit better than the other ones. So it may be a bit of a shift into healthcare is the easiest way to look at this. So we've got a little bit of relative strength today, but you can see overall relative weakness in the Dow. And the Dow is going to be made up a little bit more of industrials and healthcare and less big kind of cap tech here as well. So I think that's going to be one that I'm going to keep an eye on. I think UNH is still the largest Dow component because it's price weighted, which doesn't make any sense to me, but they've been doing it for like 200 years. So I guess I'm not going to change their mind on it.
Oh man, yeah, that definitely gets confusing for other traders. Like, what? Price weighted?
Yeah. Yeah. Price versus cap weighted versus equal weighted versus there's tons of different ways to skin that cat. But I guess I'll just explain for those who don't know. The S&P 500 is what's called cap weighted. So the larger your company is, then the more effect it will have on the market. The Dow is just price weighted. So if you have a massive company that's worth $1 a share and a tiny company that's worth $1,000 a share, that $1,000 a share company is going to move the Dow more than the other one. But one of those things, if you chart them out over time, if you zoom out enough, it doesn't really matter. You have little divergences here and there, but it's funny that they all seem to move somewhat in lockstep, even though they're calculated way differently. So the Dow, again, you'll notice it's only 30 stocks, which is very important. But yeah, the largest one being UNH. So you can use the Dow for a little bit of a proxy of healthcare and things like that.
Good morning to everyone in the chat. It's good to see you guys out there, even rocking in on the Rumble. we're worldwide, man. Worldwide, we're going here, Michael. But yeah, definitely, it's good to see everybody out there, and I see a lot of people talking different action in the chat. We'll get to some watch lists in the chat, but yeah, let's go ahead. Let's dive a little deeper. I see you got those short plays on, but let's take a look a little bit into what else is going on. Did you see the action in ARM? I mean, that's been hot as ever, man. And yesterday, really quickly, first hour of the day, that thing made a huge move, man. In the first hour, I think it got all the way up to 181, opened the market at 160. So not a bad 20-point run.
Then gapping down a little bit today, actually gapping down quite a bit in the middle of the range today. So.
Yeah, this is one I wanted to short yesterday. I could see that thing around like 180, like it kept hitting 182, 182, 182, and just struggling. But this would have been one of those overnight ones. Just watching the overnight action too helped it, right? I mean, even from the close, it just went down.
Well, and this is kind of funny. So these algos that I've been running, the idea behind one of them is you're looking for an unusually wide range bar, which this may just not have met the technical criteria, but I would say that's an unusually wide range bar for ARM. And then essentially what it's doing the next day is it's looking at the anchored VWAP from the beginning of that usually large bar and saying, if you're under that, you want to look for a short. So maybe today, even though it's not technically meeting what the criteria would want, maybe today that's going to be a day to take a look for a little bit of a short. So pretty clear pre-market range. It's just kind of consolidating nicely. So it might just be a pre-market range low or break, because generally speaking, you get these really overextended moves. And again, that's the idea behind the system. And then you have a gap down, then you have everyone going, okay, time to take a short, time to get out of some positions, time to take a little bit of a trade there to the downside. So that'll be one to watch. It was very interesting, got very near all-time highs and then backed off again. Actually reminded me a lot of this NVIDIA chart where it got right into all-time highs and then just kind of completely fell apart. I don't know if it's going to do that, but it's starting to look a little bit like that. So it's kind of interesting when you see charts. And imagine, right, if you just came in and after it failed at all-time highs said, okay, I want to take a short on NVIDIA each of these days, it would have been a pretty decent trade. So ARM is kind of interesting here for a potential short.
Yeah, yesterday we saw a lot of AI stocks hot, and I'm going to tie this all together, right? So you saw the ARM move, right? We all talked to this in the morning yesterday about what the deal that went on, right, with Oracle's move too, right? Of course, the two direct benefit were ARM and Oracle. That's why ARM got this move, right? No one expected it to be that big, but definitely it's a big move. But what I read underneath the hood, I think is very important there. It's not only necessarily about this deal, guys. I think focus more on what Trump did also. He reversed a lot of Biden's executive orders. And so he signed an executive order, and these were reversing those that he called harmful. And what did he do? Well, he took off regulation aimed at keeping AI safe, including the requirement that companies in the space would have to report developments to federal regulators. And Trump's new order does away with these requirements and also boosted AI stocks all across the board yesterday. And I think that right there is more important than any of this, right? Is what we've been talking about. And I've been saying it since the very beginning. What will Trump bring is an age of deregulation right now, right? Where you can go building. And so the growth stocks, they're going to be trying to do whatever they need to do, right? Especially in AI, right? If you're trying to distinguish yourself, one of those things that you can do is push the limits, right? But what has been held back a little bit is everyone was scared about the data, right? The privacy, where is this data being driven, all that. Well, guess what? They're pushing that to the side. They don't care. At least Trump doesn't. Why? Because he knows if he gives that access to these bigger companies, what are they going to go do? They're going to go spend money. They got money to spend, right? And so I think this is just the beginning of what we're going to see in some of these AI players. That's why we got to keep watching now, because in this case, this could start a kick start of what could be like AI 2.0. Right. And so I think that's what we need to be watching, especially in the next couple of weeks, to see how that plays out. Doesn't need to be today, but keep looking at those names, even the smaller ones. I mean, yesterday, I think it was like POAI. It was so many of these just random ass AI stocks. Let's just be honest. Random. If it just had AI in it. Right. And even C3 AI was getting a little bit of a pop. And we've all heard about Tempest, right? So keep your eyes on those names. Like Tempest is crazy. There's a reason why it got 40 million shares traded in the last 2 days prior to this, right? And so moves like that, I think, are just getting started. We just need to watch to see how much is this really going to kickstart some euphoric to the upside.
So yeah, I don't know if I missed it or not, but what happened with Black Box? That's what I think everyone really wants to know.
Black Box in it, man. All right, you guys want to know what happened with yesterday? I actually got cut out on the worst spot there, man. I'll show you guys.
No.
So what ended up happening is, of course, it started to pull back a little bit. I'll show you guys it right here. So when it started to pull back here around the I think it was a 350 spot here. And let me pull it down so we can see a little bit more pricing. Yeah, right around the 340s, something like that. I had only I think 50 shares at the time. So I said, you know what? I'm going to double down and just hold to a tight stop, like a break even stop, which I did it at the 340s, 350s. And that brought me right towards around the 330s, because I was slightly below 3. And it hit me right on the bottom there. It went to 325. I got out at 330. And then I looked back at the end of the day and I'm like, yep, there it is. There it is.
That's why I was asking, because I had a half an eye on it yesterday, because
I'm sure it wasn't a bad one to play, guys. It wasn't a bad one. And this morning, I'm thinking the opposite now. I'm thinking this bad boy might be a short today. So I think it'll be something to watch, right? I've been having this little area that I'm watching between 509 and 470s. I even this morning took a little bit of a starter on that trade. I'll show you guys it in the small account. You guys will see that I'm down $10, and there's a reason why. I was watching that for a potential short. So here you guys see it, short 491, out 501, right before this big spike on the 550s. Why? Because I started looking at the tape and it looked heavy, but there kept being this little post up right around you see it now, the 495s just sitting there, the sizing. And I was at some point, I think that's what this is going to do, is do maybe a last little scare out before the market open. So I don't want to get shaken in this too much and then just get, let's say, run over right here in the pre-market and not be able to take it down in the market. So I said, you know what, instead of trying to get that's close to $5 so that I can be in the lead when it breaks the support, I'm going to look for the support break during the open and see if we get that washout kind of look on this name. Of course, $5 being so important because that was the rumor, right? That this company was going to merge or get bought out, whatever it was, at $5. That was given to us, right? Now the question is, does that just completely go away, right? Because it wasn't an actual like deal that went through. It was just a rumor of a deal. Rumors, unless they're broken by Wall Street Journal, I don't believe too many of them. So we'll see what happens here.
Especially on stocks like this, what did we say? The entire float was like 1 million shares. The whole
2 million. But yeah, ridiculous, man. What was the final tally of the day? Oh, look at this. You gotta laugh at sometimes like this. 243 million shares traded on a 2 million share float.
So the entire float changed hands 100 times.
100 times.
Which is just insane, right?
That's like just insanity, right? Like when you can think about that, that it almost doesn't seem like that could happen, right? Like it's one of those things where that's why I was looking at it early on and yesterday and why I ended up trading it, right? Because I just saw an insane amount of float rotation being traded, right? Like in the first hour of this thing already had like close to 100 million shares traded. And there was no reason for it, right? And so that and then when Michael started going to the website, I think that was all we needed. That's all I needed. I was like, this is just running on BS, but I'm down to play the BS, right?
I think that's super important to note, right? We're clowning on this stock because this looks like a garbage stock, but it's much different. It's not something I'm going to swing trade. I'm not going to buy this thing and hold it for any length of time. But when it comes to day trading, when you see that insane amount of volume, you know that this thing is trading purely on emotion, right? It's just it's picked up by a bunch of rooms, and then now it's going to get picked up by a bunch of prop firms because it was picked up by a bunch of rooms, and it's like this whole game of musical chairs have started. There's nothing wrong with that, right? As long as you got a plan, you can get out, the liquidity's there. So I always say, again, you can trade anything as long as you have the liquidity and you have the out. Those are the two most important things. And in both cases, right, we had the liquidity, you had the out, so you take the trade. But yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, and tight spreads, right? That was another thing with this one. It was like a 1 or 2 cent spread, right? Because the one thing that you don't want to do is go to a low float name and see like a 30 cent spread, right? Because the truth is on penny stocks, you already have a disadvantage in ordering, right? Let's just be honest, like right off the top, in order execution, you're going to have a disadvantage unless you have direct routing or a way to get into the dark pools. You're going to have a disadvantage in these stocks. But how can you get around certain things like that? Make sure that you have, like what Michael just mentioned, liquidity, tight kind of bid and ask, so that if you need to get in, you can get out, right? The one thing that really sucks on a name like this is when you go long at $5, 1,000 shares, and all of a sudden the bid drops out 30 cents on you, right? Because at that point, even before the stock moves, you're down, right? Let's just be honest. And I think that's what some traders don't understand with these names, that they just you can easily go too big too fast on these names, right? And that's another thing that helped me yesterday. I went 200 shares first, started seeing the trade work. I added 200 shares, and then I coasted it from there, right? So at first it was only like a $20 or $40 risk. By the time I got to 400 shares, I was already at like break even mentality, right? And so you got to be careful with these names, but it was a good move. What you look for, you want to look for that high volume float rotation. And I always look for, because because I've studied enough of the gurus and furus, between $3 and $6 is a big sweet spot for these bad boys to run, right? Above 3. Why? Because those penny names, those other ones, they're going to be trading it with like 20, 50, 100,000 shares. You can't do that, right? Like it's going to be very hard for you to size up that big and play with them. So in the $3 range, yeah, they'll take their 10,000 shares, but I can take my 1,000 or 500 at that level, right? And that seems more to make sense. But just getting out of the black box there. Yeah. Shake the black box today. We'll see what happens today.
No,
All
and
right.
I think that's great to go over because this thing came out of nowhere, right? And you never know, so you have to prep. You have to have the
Yep.
idea together and say, hey, I'm gonna prepare for what happens when this stuff comes out of nowhere, because that next one could happen today, could happen next week. You never know, right? So you just want to be prepared for when that occurs. One thing I was just looking here on the SPY. We're starting to break down now. This is the anchored view app before that gap that we had the other day. We're starting to break under that now. Could be, right? If we go to the daily chart and then we turn on pre-market action, you can see, we're still green by a little bit if you turn on pre and post market, but not too much. And so far, we've got these kind of two topping tails right here. So we're hanging out under that anchored view app. The major view app I'm watching here is the one right on this fake out candle, right? That happened all the way at 580. We were pounding the table on, right? If we held 580, you want to be a buyer. That turned out fantastic. So if we come back to that average price, that's sitting around 591, 592. I think that would be a big area, but that's it. That's a huge move. So really what I'm trying to do and what I'm looking at here on the SPY is just buy the dip, sell the rip kind of mentality. Is what can I do? Anchoring a view app here from this previous high, right? What can I do? What can I find for levels above us and levels below us? Understanding that I think the game plan this morning is going to be taking the quick trade when you got it, right? Unless you're in something, again, like a black box or one of these really low float, crazy type names. I think it's a very much going to be a scalper's market until after Trump comes on at 11, because whatever he says, the one thing we can be sure is it's probably going to shake things up, right? It's just the guy is not going to come out and give a very professional state of whatever and then meekishly walk away. He's going to come out, he's going to say some stuff, and the market's going to take cues from that. So if you're a scalper, probably good to try to find the fastest feed to watch that as possible. If he talks about AI, have a couple names to play. If he talks about, I don't know, Ozempic, have a couple names to play, whatever it is. But for most traders, again, I think it's going to be kind of a sit out, take a couple scalps, trade a little bit smaller today, wait for him to get out of the way, and then kind of go hard, I guess, tomorrow or so after things kind of calm down a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. A lot of people talking in the chat. Let's catch up with some of the action there. And like always, guys, smash the like. We'll keep it going here. It's 9:25, guys. Almost 9:26. We're almost to the bell here, guys. And we'll take a look to see what else is moving. I did see a crazy holding company this morning just go from like $7 to $14. It was absolutely bananas. But that spread was just absolutely wide, man. It was like 60 cents. Sometimes $1. I was like, dude, how do people trade this? But hey, they see the order flow and then some algos trading it. I just could not, man. I was trying my best. I was like, yeah, I could see the action. It made sense to buy like a micro pullback, like maybe of like 50 to 80 cents, but that just it would give me heartburn in the morning, man. I'd have to start taking Tums in the morning, bro. I'm good, man. Passed on that offer, but that's just how it is. And I think that's how you catch these rockets in the morning. And that's where you got to understand what type of rocket you're trying to ride. Right. And understanding that is very important. Of course, I do this by catching just a scanner of like 5 minute, 5%. And so essentially that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for stocks in the pre-market that in the last 5 minutes are moving at least 5%. And in the last 15 minutes are moving closer towards 10%, right? So even like just above like 7 is fine. But that tells me more and more this stock is moving now. And then what I like to do is know like the pre-market movers, right? I'm looking for that stock that's up 20, 40, 60% in between there that is showing that sign. Now the momentum's coming to it. Now the stock has already had a lot of people watching it. Let's see if it breaks a major level. That's how I mainly catch those in the morning, just to give you guys the insight. Like always, I do this with Benzinga Pro, one of our partners that you guys could be checking out right there.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at some tickers that people were talking about in the chat. Someone's asking about Qubit.
Let's do it.
Still below that anchored VWAP from the all-time highs. Again, I wouldn't go near these things personally until or unless we can get above that. You can see every time we get near to those, we kind of back off. So again, this is the idea of this is the average price of what happens if people kind of bought the FOMO. What is their average price? They're still at 14 or so, which is like 50% above where we are. So for day traders, I think these things are going to be moving for a while just because of the massive range of these candles. For longer term trades, not so much. Humana. So a nice break of 300. That's a good looking little chart there. Even though healthcare has been a bit of a dog, Humana, right, just been basing here for a number of days. Looks like it's trying to challenge the top end of that base on today's candle. It could be a nice little break if we hold above that area. Yeah, more expensive ones. These ones are, I think, a little bit harder to day trade because those spreads, like we were just talking about, the spreads can get pretty wild. But a nice look. Right? It's holding up here pretty well. And then a lot of the big cap techs names, right? The usual suspects. Tesla, I've done the same thing. This is the anchored VWAP from this all-time high. You can see we've been struggling against that for a long time. I own a bunch of Tesla, just full disclosure, but the idea is that if we can get back above that and kind of close in a major way, might be good to take a little bit of a shot. But this means that we're struggling. These anchored VWAP from all-time highs and all-time lows and things like that usually get pretty important. So that's one of those things that we can take a look at. And it makes it for a pretty clear trade, right? If we're above this price, I want to be involved. If we're below this price, it's probably time to go. And then, right, we already spoke about Nvidia, right? Until it can get through those all-time highs and hold, right? We're just kind of stuck in a range, frustrating everyone. Hit those all-time highs, fell off, and then Amazon, I think, actually made an all-time high yesterday. Yeah, it did. So struggling a little bit today, just with the overall market. It makes up. It's going to move with the overall market, but a new all-time high yesterday on Amazon. You can't complain about that, especially if you're a holder, right? So.
Yeah, can't complain at all. I know that Apple turned around to chat talking about Apple volume starting to pick up a little bit. We'll see what happens there. And don't worry about it. Some of us like the winner, but I appreciate the mention here. Sorry for the winner. In the Caribbean, I mean, hey, can't go wrong with some beaches, right? I'm sure you're still seeing some good 70s, nice spun in the sun. But hey, you enjoyed that. I'm sure Michael will have a big fire in the background coming on real soon. The heater's on warm, and we're ready to go, guys. Here's the market. Market's open. Let's see what happens. Black stock already going to 550, 550s, 555s. I'm only going to look at that stock today. If it's down through the 470s, I'll let you guys know. Other than that, upside to that stock, I don't like playing it on here on the day two.
Yeah, just looking at the SPY here and looking at the this massive candle surge and the VWAP from there, we're just consolidating, right? We're getting really tight here, so it's good not to get too aggressive right off the jump, right off the open. We're just kind of fighting. So what I want to do is start to mark some levels, right? There's very basic levels here that you can see on the SPY. This high right here, and then we've got this low right here. And as long as we're hanging out in this zone, there's not really much to do. So we just need to see what this first kind of 5 to 15 minutes does for us now. The fact that we got that VWAP in the middle, that's a little worrisome as well. Perfect world for me. The trade I'm trying to plan out here on the SPY is a move up to this anchored VWAP, which is again the anchored VWAP from this high right here that we put in yesterday, and then some sort of failure from there. To the downside, I don't really have anything just because we did that gap up. You could look at a gap fill or something, but that's 2 points away, so that's a pretty big move. So just kind of hanging out, waiting for the SPY to give us some direction. Again, with Trump speaking at 11, I don't expect a huge move. So that's kind of the mentality that I'm taking. The two names that I've got on watch here for the algo are not doing anything that I need them to do either. So kind of wait and see.
Black box on the downside now, guys.
Oh yes, I have that up here. So yeah, it's starting to fail. We go to a 5-minute chart, and it's trying to pop under that pre-market low. It's battling that pre-market low. That could be a pretty simple trade. Right? If we break that pre-market low and we can hold below, say 469 or something, just to be cute with it, and then the
Order
stop
out
goes at the high.
490s. Orders out 490s. Let's say if I can get a pop back to 5. So the way that I'm thinking is a lot of shorters just probably tapped on that 470, risking off of 5. So I think we'll get maybe a pop somewhere near that level. I'm looking to get a starter at 490, at least 20 cents up. Then I can go ahead and maybe add towards like 520s, risk off of the high of the day right now.
Yeah, it's trying. It's trying, that's for sure. Just keeping an eye on the
Got to switch accounts there.
other two names.
Already losing altitude at 460s. We might not even get the bounce there. So if I take it here, I have to keep it really tight. There it goes, already towards the 450s there. Already down about 20 cents from the support there. Let's see if we can get some type of bounce, but it's just tapping that bid, and it's about 10-cent spread there, so you got to be careful. SMR is another one that I'm looking at, guys. That's a nice little setup right here off the 25s. I just missed the pullback. I was watching Black Stock there, but NNE was one that I was watching. It was already lifting, so I looked at SMR that was off of the 25 look yesterday. Today, recovering that 25. We'll see if it holds on a pullback.
Yeah, I'm watching. So the two from the system are CHRO, and right, that's got to get all the way back up to there, which is not doing the spread on this thing. I just saw the pops pretty wild, and then VATE, which is a little bit closer. So the other trade to potentially take is, we just remove that, is just look at the 2-day VWAP and maybe take a shot under that. And say if we can get through that 2-day VWAP, which is right here, we take that short, and then we kind of use the lean against that $11 area for a stop. But again, the idea behind these is pretty simple. Right? You look at any metric that you want. These things are overbought, and we're filtering generally for really bad stocks. But the idea is that shorting pops in horrible names is a good idea. And things that were once $50 a share and then went all the way to $3. They did that. They did it for a reason. I don't even know what that is, but just knowing that these pops generally get a little bit overdone, you can take little shorts on them. But neither of those is anywhere near anything that I would consider a trigger just yet. Anyway, SP 500 just again in this range. So I drew this range out right off the open. Not so much pre-market high and low, but just a little bump high and low. And we're just kind of consolidating here with not too much going on. Nothing happening on the 10:30. We have natural gas storage.
I think Kansas manufacturing a little later today.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So crude oil, nat gas, and Trump are the main guys out there. So. Again, my plan for the SPY is if we do get a pop and we get up to this kind of 106, 107 area, that might be an area to take a trade. But until then, I'm just watching these two names that I have.
All right, one of my stocks on the playbook, guys. Well, two of them already moving to the upside here. QUBT, but I was looking at that potential short. That's actually doing really well up there towards 1170s. I'll show you guys that in 1 second here. KRE also moving up here, so that's what I'm looking at, potentially to go long here on the KRE. DHI is pretty down there, so that's that one I'm not really looking at. AMD's on a big pullback there. I'm looking around at different ones. Lockheed Martin's holding on. Qualcomm holding on to 170. Now the Q's approaching that 606 here. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, so time to just compare some indices as we do every day, just to see if anything's outperforming or underperforming. Yesterday was you own big cap tech or you were sad. Today it looks like it's kind of the opposite, with the Qs a little bit underperforming the S&P 500. IWM small caps trying to hold on, doing a little bit better, but not too much. And then we take a look at the RSP. That's actually up on the day, where most of these things are down just a little bit. Take a look at the heat map. We'll go over here. Mostly green, not really crazy one way or the other. The only things that are really standing out is ITA, which is aerospace and defense, continuing to be a leader. This ITA has just been a monster. So we're breaking out to new highs here. looks absolutely fantastic. Some of the names, Jets will move with that. Down a little bit today, but trying to hold on. And what XAR, I think, is the other one. Yeah, so XAR is breaking out to new highs as well. So grab your defensive names. LMT would be an interesting one. I've been watching this one, Lockheed Martin, for a little bit. We're up here against the 50-day moving average, which is a fairly important daily moving average, and we're just kind of consolidating there. That could be a play. So yeah, grab a lot of these defensive names, see if there's something going on there. That is a sector that is doing the best. The one that's doing the worst is actually semiconductors, along with silver, of all ones. So that's kind of interesting there.
All right, looking at the KRE, of course, and I mentioned that. I'm looking at to see what names are also doing really well in the KRE, right? So you got NBBK. Looking at some of these regional banks, pretty nice little pops on some of these, right? So I'm looking to see if I can get some type of pullback. There it is. That's not too bad of a pullback now, going back into the throwback look. That's what I really would like, a look back towards like 63.10s here. Getting it to the 18s. I don't mind getting in on the 15 action here. I can get to 63.15s. Let's see if I grab it on just the scoop here.
Yeah, it's so regional banks, certainly interesting, especially with Trump coming up, where they're very interest rate heavy. If people are looking to play interest rates, if you want to look to take a bet on interest rates going higher or lower, KRE is a good way to do it. If you think interest rates are going lower, then you buy KRE. If you think interest rates are going higher, then you short KRE. So yeah, it's one of those things where fairly easy play, just because these are the guys that are going to benefit or not the most on these interest rate plays. And if you want evidence of that, just go back to the Silvergate and First National, whatever, all these ones that went bankrupt when they jacked interest rates a little bit too high, a little bit too fast. So cool thing about them too is it's more fun to play than the big guys. Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, not really big movers, but you can find small counterparties that will move like them and actually still do pretty well. Yeah, so
QUBT, guys, QUBT alert. That thing is absolutely strong today, guys. 5 minutes, 2 5-minute bars up, more than $1 each. So QUBT, some strength there, guys, for sure. I'm already into KRE here, guys, so I'm going to focus in on that, but definitely quantum stocks making a move.
Yeah, so still, this is what I'm watching on QUBT. If we can get up to this kind of 14 level, again, it's like that'd be a massive intraday move. That should be all you need from an intraday move. It's like a 50% gainer. That would be the area that I'd look to get involved, potentially to the downside, but that's a long way from here. Also, same with the two names that I'm watching with.
All right, guys, here comes the KRE off the VWAP. Just want to let you guys know I did add 463.15. Q's ripping here, guys, pushing strong. I think we're seeing at least some of the bears get washed here out the gates here. Only question is, how long will it hold?
Just looking through kind of my alerts and scans, seeing if there's anything super interesting going on, and it's not a lot. So it's kind of like we thought. Things are looking a little bit slow off the morning, and that's fine. Now I'm getting slow seeing massive moves in some of these places, but we're finally outside of that range on the S&P 500 that I have drawn. So now again, I'm watching just to see if we can get to the 606, 607, where that think the VWAP is. It's the only place that I can really think of for a potential short. Could just do the 2-day VWAP as well, but that's sitting around the same price. So if we get into that zone, that's where I'll look to take a shot. Until then, I'm just watching these two names. This VATE is starting to look like it might want to break down, but again, below the 2-day VWAP is where I want to be involved on that one. If it doesn't get up to the highs here of about 11, it's wild to see this. I don't know, right? The pre-market we got right there where, again, I'm running these the night before, so it has no idea that these levels are important the day of, but seeing more and more that they're happening in the pre-market, which makes me think maybe I should get up a little bit earlier and start to keep an eye on these.
Yeah, you the early worm, right? Early bird gets the worm, but A
That's
lot
the
of
gym
times,
time, though. I don't like that.
right? I'm
Yeah.
with you on it, man. It's a battle. It's a battle, right? I sometimes battle myself. Do I do the gym in the morning? Do I do the gym at night?
Oh,
Because
I
at night
can't.
I get tired, man.
Oh, I'm the other way. If I go to the gym at night, I'm going to be wired and not sleep. So I get up,
Yeah,
go
yeah,
to
yeah.
school, and then I take a.
Once I go to the gym, yeah, it like activates that like inner energy, and then next thing you know, you're up till like midnight, just
Yeah.
looking around like, oh, what am I gonna trade tomorrow?
Can't be doing that, that's for sure. So yeah, I got a question here. Again, always ask questions, right? We appreciate that. But
Let's
just
do it.
will the Trump speech affect the market today? I can say absolutely yes. How it will affect the market, I think that's the billion-dollar question.
Yeah, that's the $1 billion question for sure.
But yeah, I think this is just general. From what I read, is just kind of a general. Hi, I'm your president. Let's have a chat. There's not like a specific purpose for it. So it could be very general. So the question, I think, more or less would be what sectors or ideas or whatever he's going to talk about. I think what we're seeing with kind of the chop that we're seeing here in the market right now is kind of just indicative to the fact that we are the market's trying to figure out what to do, right? The market's trying to figure out which is what's important here. Like, are we going to take a big push higher? Are we going to take a big push lower? I don't know. I think what's going to happen is we're going to have a lot of people just waiting for one way or another. So I would say, yes, it's going to move it. The question is in what direction, and then also in what sectors. So if he spends the whole time talking about interest rates, then something like Mitch's KRE is going to definitely move very well. If he starts talking about AI,
I don't know if he's doing it, but it might just get it. Let's go.
Oh, it's a good looking trade there for sure.
Yeah.
So just right on the ETF that you took.
Yeah, one thing that we saw earlier today that I was pointing to before you hopped on, of course, is the credit services and how strong those look today. I don't know if you saw DFS, but man, Discover just ripping today. And a lot of those credit services just looking strong now.
Yeah. That's another thing that I'm exploring as I'm getting back into this day trading world is
there we go.
What if I just traded the ETFs? And I think it might be more my jam. Make a list of 10 to 20, right? Scan them every day.
There we go.
Have your levels marked. Great trade.
Looking good, guys. Looking good. Looking good. Got a KRE looking good here. I think the big thing for the KRE, just a really quick 15-minute, there's a resistance around the 63.40s. Right now, we hit high a day at 63.37. So I'm looking especially there at 63.40s if I can see some more buying happening.
Yeah, so I think this is just a great interest rate play, right? We talked about this morning how we had the jobs number, and the jobs number is going to affect what the Fed does, and that's going to change whether or not we get interest rate cuts or not. So when you get that, then it makes sense in which that's really going to be the difference. So I think you're getting a interest rate as well, where we can, if the market's going to think there's lower rates, then this KRE could be, again, a huge place where people go. It really is a proxy for people trying to trade rates and whether or not they think the rates are going to continue. Just taking a look back here, ITA, which is our defense and aerospace, continues to rip. We have Bitcoin actually making it up to the chart, so moving up a little bit there as well. Again, even if you're not a crypto person, I highly suggest recommending keeping an eye on Bitcoin. Right? Even if you don't ever think you're ever going to trade crypto or own a single bit of it, it's just a nice risk-on metric. If this is our leader, if Bitcoin really starts moving, then I don't think the market's too worried about too much.
In the pullback into KRE here, might stop out break even, look to get back in it if it approaches the low. It was 63.10s. But just seeing the pullback here. One other stock that looked pretty interesting there, QUBT, back towards 1135. Just visually, that looks like 50% of the move that just happened. So just seeing it on the 5-minute right there around the 1130s. I didn't get into it because I'm just watching it on the top chart here. But looked interesting there on that 1130 pullback.
Yeah, the SPY is continuing to creep higher. It's certainly not rocketing out of the gate or anything. Again, the only trade I've got kind of queued up, other than those two from the algos that aren't really showing me what I need to see, is just trading the S&P 500. So if we can get to this VWAP from all-time high, I'll probably start lagging into a position in my big boy account there just to see, probably do the future side of things. But just taking a look there again, going with my idea that we are buy the dip, sell the rip kind of mentality. Yesterday, I was thinking very much, right, the market was looking very strong. In this case, I think we're going to be choppy again, just until Trump comes and kind of clears everybody a little bit out of the way.
All right, looking around in the market, I'm seeing AMD, another hourly long pullback out the gates here, almost back towards 122. And there you guys have another opportunity on an hourly long pullback for AMD. I didn't grab it. It was a little bit scarier today because it's breaking through like multi-day hourly support, but really quick recovery again. Seems like the algos have that play down packed.
Yeah, a lot of, right, dip it in the morning, right? You can see the same thing.
Yeah, the buy the dip mentality, right? And it's not being broken, at least this morning.
Yeah, dip it and rip it. And then again, that could be the market we're in for a while, right? So we take a look at the daily chart here of the SPY, right? We could just be in the, now that we've really gotten up to these all-time highs, we're oversold on pretty much every metric that you can think of, or overbought, sorry. If we're just going to consolidate here, that shifts how we have to look at things on a shorter term basis. You have to be buying dips and selling rips and doing that over and over again, as opposed to really trying to chase breakouts and breakdowns and all of that. So yeah, it's really, with everything that's happening today, it makes sense that we are in such a tight range. Yeah, like someone mentioned, the Qs is in a 50-cent range, which is just insane. If you take a look at just the 5 minute off the open, you can see this range bound that we've hit here, and really, right, pre-market high and pre-market low, and we're just kind of stuck between that. So same kind of thing as the SPY, same thing as a lot of these indices. It's the market's chilling, and it deserves it, right? It's had a really good move, so it deserves a day or two of rest, and that's just kind of the way that I look at that. So if we do again get a move in an area in which I'm kind of comfortable to play off of 606.50, maybe to 607, this zone right here, then I think, right, you can play off zones like that today, just not expecting huge moves kind of one way or the other.
All right, guys, stop ad at the high of the day here, just slightly 63.40s. If it gets through there, I'm looking for the breakout. Let's see if we get it. If we do, I think I could see a 63.60s coming into play. So another 20 cents there. I'll go for the ad and then break even on the rest of it. Just trying to see if I can jump on the momentum. I've stayed in it here throughout the 5 minute consolidation. Now looking for the break out of the 5 minute consolidation. You can see that right here on the pattern. So now if you draw this, right, this is kind of my rule of three also coming into play. At this point, shouldn't really break the support on the 1 minute. You can see it's undercut the VWAP. What? 1, 2, 3 times. On this fourth time, it should recover, not break VWAP now, at least on my strategy. So that gives me 63.18s VWAP. Guess where I'm in? 63.18. Can't get better than that. Now it's just more, can it break out? Now let's let the market do the work.
Yeah, so just looking at what the market's doing, we've got that pre-market high tick that was right after or right around the release of the jobs number. That's at 606.40s. So that might be that could be our issue. We could get to that. We could struggle there as the market again remains fairly choppy, which again we talked about this morning, is to be expected, right? So just trying to look here to see if there's any news on what he's going to be speaking about. I think that would be a very important thing.
Yeah, I think personally, I think he's been really focused in AI, so I highly doubt it could be outside of that right now. But hey, you never know, right? Maybe quantum gets talked about again. Quantum stocks aren't doing too bad today.
Yeah, so AI, quantum would be interesting.
Robotics, autonomous, right? Maybe a Tesla mention. you never know, right? I mean,
Well, one of his first, again, I was reading some of the things that he signed, the executive orders, and one of them was very anti-EV, basically trying to remove the mandate that they had to try to convert all cars to EVs. So I don't know if he'd flip on that quickly. But
yeah,
that
I don't think it would be towards EV, but autonomous. So one of the things with autonomous, and the reason why it hasn't come out, guys, and the reason why FSD isn't considered like real autonomous is because of regulation, right? And so what if he can pull back on that, right? Maybe he pulls back on the whole EV overall, like, you know, carbon control kind of thing action. But other than that, what I'm looking for more is talk on specific autonomous. Because if he's going to take out the regulation in AI, I mean, he could lighten up the regulation in autonomous. That's what I think Tesla really wants in the end. I don't think they even care about their cars anymore. They care about the technology behind the car now more than ever.
Well, and the data, right? That's the biggest thing, is that if
Yeah.
you get a couple 100,000 cars just driving around 24/7, 365, you're gathering a whole lot of data.
Yeah. Yeah. And everyone wants that data, right? It tells you a lot of things. It tells you driving habits. Businesses want that. I mean, there's so much more in there. And how do you think people find out where to build a gas station?
Yeah.
A lot of the information like this, right? So we'll see what happens here, guys. KRE, it's right on my break even. It's kind of one of those where I just got to give it the risk now because I've been in it to win it now. It's going to be more depending here if we can get the complete break above the 63.40s. The pattern's there. It's just more just kind of chomping between it. Let's see if the Bulls can take it.
Yeah, and again, as expected, right? We expect a bit of a choppy market, which you can see Mitch is being just a little more hands-off, a little more patient, and that's what you have to do in choppy markets. I'm looking here at Bitcoin because, earlier today, this candle was very, very red. Things were looking a little dicey on the Bitcoin front, that we may actually fall against this high. Now we're consolidating right at this prior high, which was the high right here, holding really, really tight and really well. So I've got my eyes on this for the next couple days, or even, I guess, during that speech might be something that you have to keep an eye on. A mention of Bitcoin reserve, of something like that. This thing could get really, really ripping. So I'm watching this one closely, just because this is exactly what you want to see inside of consolidation. Is if it cannot pull back and it just continues to base right at that high, that's just showing that it's eating up supply and eating up supply and eating up supply, and eventually all the supply is going to be gone, right? You never know when that's going to be, but that could give us, I think, a quick move to 115, 120 if we have a break of there. So I already have some orders kind of layered, some stop orders to get me in on a push higher, but I'm just really liking the action. If we look at the 30-minute chart, it's just something happened in the last 30 minutes. I don't know what it is, but you can see a slow, controlled move down here on Bitcoin, and then 30 minutes ago we popped. So I don't know if this is people buying in anticipation or what, but we need to see. I think this is very much going to be a Trump thing. People are going to be waiting with bated breath for him to say crypto, to see whether or not all of the crypto talk he gave on his way in was just to get votes, or whether he's actually planning on doing something with Bitcoin.
All right, guys, I'm looking at maybe taking a shot here on QUBT for the recovery here. It's not a bad one there. This is the smaller account. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 100 shares. Normally I do it a little bit bigger than this, but I'm just going to do it a little bit smaller here and just do like a little feeler. It's only $15 of risk that I need to do. So I'm going to do it at 17, give myself a penny or two more here. If I get cut back towards 11, it just tells me just be careful with this now, and I can get a little starter feel, because the risk and return, right? Even to the top end, it's 861 ticks higher. So to me, that's just good risk to return right now. About 20 ticks for about 61, right? So good risk to return. I'll take the shot there on the smaller account.
Meanwhile, keep an eye on
I like black box too. Black box short, but I'm trying my best to wait on that thing, guys. You see, it just came after me on that 11. So just quick out, and then it goes right towards 11, right? So now I'll watch it to see if it rebounds back. right, starts to give me green action first, because it could just be washing out. KRE is looking good, so I'll just go back to that.
That's right. If you have something that's working, just go hang out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why it was the feeler, right? The smallest position I could think of, where even if it went back 61 points, like what, it was only going to make me like $60 maybe on the top side. So getting out there is just the limiting factor. And on KRE, what I did, guys, is, and I'm probably going to add to this, but when it came down into a risk zone, I actually cut out half of the positioning right there, because since I'm just chopping around right there, I need to see it actually starts to show me some strength before I go back into full size.
Yeah, it's trying, and what's interesting is it's trying at the same time that, where are we here? That the SPY is not. So that's very, very interesting. Where the SPY is selling off a little bit here, the KRE is actually holding stronger, and to see some of these sectors diverge a little bit, I think is very interesting. So something that you want to keep in mind and keep an eye on is that, yeah, if things are not, if it's diverging from the overall market, then to me it gives you a little bit more of, hey, I potentially am onto something, so maybe it's something I want to keep an eye on. Where if it's just moving in lockstep with the market, that's a little bit less interesting to me. So you may be onto something there with KRE and
I like
it as a whole.
I like it. I mean, at the end of the day, the reason also seeing this is financials have been strong. So a lot of times I see the global banks lead the action and the regionals follow, right? And a lot of that is you get through the global situation, and then the smaller banks start to come in, right? So I think that's what we're starting to see, and it hasn't really shaken the KRE to the downside, which just tells me, hey, this isn't the worst environment right now for them, at least in the time being. There's still some worries down the street, but right now things are looking fine. What I'm concerned is later in the year, I still am concerned about office kind of REITs that are going to be coming up here. There's a lot of kind of like expiring stuff that's going to be coming into play in 2025. A lot of these old offices nobody wants anymore. But look at the rip now. Now we're going for the breakout look, right? So now is when I'm going to put on the size here and hold break even. So boom, size on, break even.
Yeah, I'm watching this. VATE has gotten to the 2-day VWAP, which is what I wanted. So I want it just to dance around here for a few minutes, and then if it breaks, again, the idea behind this just came from some of the algorithms that I'm testing and I'm looking to build, and just basically saying that this thing is very, very oversold and has a history of doing these pops and then just completely falling apart. Right? This is something that this stock does, where you have these really great looking pops and then they just kind of fall apart completely. So, we're seeing oversold on, again, every metric that you could possibly imagine. So if we fail here, then it comes back into even this prior day's range, 950, 850, right? You're talking a big move from here.
Quick wash there, guys, right from the high there, guys. So I'm being a little bit careful here, but at the same time, I got to make sure that I don't risk too much on this one trade, right? So I'm trying to keep it tight here, see if it can get right back off of these 20s. Wouldn't want to see it break the trend line. I'll show you the trend line approach right now on the one, and you can see it on multi-time frames, really. And so it's just kind of that attempted trend line break, then it's coming back and trying to catch this right here. So I'm watching to see if it can go right back up towards that high now. Not break the VWAP. If it breaks VWAP, I know I got to go.
So that is, I don't know what happened. Euro consumer confidence came in. I don't know if
the euro, bro. It's all these Europeans trying to ruin my trade.
So yeah, I don't know. European consumer confidence has affected your trade, but that's the only news event that I see happening at 10. Again, 10:30, not gas. 11 is crude oil inventories end. We have Trump speaking. Then overnight should be interesting because we have the Bank of Japan. And I know most people aren't nerds like me and really focus on the Bank of Japan, but they've been a really big player in this particular space for a while. Their interest rates are going to move the market, what they do. I think that's going to be maybe even a bigger market move than Trump. Whatever happens with the Bank of Japan tonight.
All right, KRE is trying to recover here. It held that little break towards the lows there. Now I just need to see it break through the highs. Has to go through 63.40s when it gets back up there. If not, just getting out. There's a push. There's a 63.30s. There's a 63.35s. Does it take the high? Has to break the 63.40s now. If not, I get out. It comes back.
The Europeans might finally be getting out of your way.
Those euros, man.
They got you.
It's funny is I got a German citizenship, so they can't get me.
A very interesting time to have their consumer confidence numbers. That late in the day. I guess we're just used to in the U.S. market.
That's good. Let's go. That's good. Let's go.
At the SPY, it did. Yeah, still relatively weak in comparison to what we're seeing.
It just doesn't want to go, guys. And if it doesn't want to go, I might have to go with it. Yeah, here it is, guys. Just literally like a tick away from getting out of it. Trying to see it hold to 63.25s because that's just kind of like a known level to try to wash them. The KRE trying to definitely working me today, right? But it's stuck in between this range, right? And so I'm trying my best to play that range, right?
Just looking at things like
Look at AMD, man. Look at AMD today. Look at that recovery.
Did it again, eh? Yeah.
It did it again, man. It did it again.
It's interesting. And this is something that is a little bit less quantifiable, but is interesting for a swing trading standpoint, is if you start to see moves like that, like you're seeing on AMD, where, we dip off the open and then we pop through. It's happened like 3 or 4 days in a row now. We dip off the open and then rip and then dip. That could be institutional buying, right? That could be it. Could be some system out there, right? And again, a lot of these institutions, I worked for them for many, many years. They're just using buy algorithms and sell algorithms to get in another position. So the idea is they say, okay, on the open, something simple as if you're below the pre-market range, flip on the buy algo, thinking that they're getting kind of a good price in through there. So yeah, if it keeps happening again and again, that would be kind of something that I would take a look at maybe on a daily chart a little bit longer and start to say, okay, maybe we're starting to dig in here. And then what levels would I want to see cleared in order to really hammer home that thesis? And one just being, I think, this downtrend line, right? So very simple. You don't have to get super cute with it, but we've been in this channel to the downside for a fairly long time, right? Just been grinding lower and lower and lower. That top of that channel sits around 124, 125. So could be as simple as, hey, if we get above this downtrend channel, I want to be involved. Then if we fall back into the channel on a closing basis, it's time to get out. And then you've got yourself a very simple swing trading idea from there that you could express just by buying common or by looking at options or whatever it is. If you think, right, AMD is going to be a little bit overdone, or is a little bit overdone to the downside, then you could take a look at it in a longer term chart. You can see some trades. I love that I always leave these, but
starting to see black box give up, guys. I want to go short it, but I'm so stuck in this KRE focus that it's hard, right? I gotta determine opportunity costs, right? Sometimes you're gonna run into these moments. It's hard. It's hard to determine which one to take, right? And I'm already in KRE, but that black box starting to break to the 480, 470s. Couldn't hold 5, tells me something. But here's the KRE now going for the breakout look. Now I can go break even. I'm going to go break even and switch accounts, right? Because now it can either just go or not go, right? And at this point, it has to go, right? Like it's been up there 1, 2, 3, 4 times. That's my rule of 3. After the 4th, it's to fail to the support. So we'll see what happens now. Going for the black box, man.
Yeah, those Bollinger Bands get really, really tight there on that KRD. So she's gonna do something real soon. But yeah, the black box is interesting. I've actually just taken the VWAP from yesterday, looking at the 2-day VWAP. That's sitting around 410. So, you know, if you get a flush through lows at 450, that could be a simple $4.10, $4 could be a nice little target there. But through that 2-day VWAP, that means the average market participant from all of that craziness yesterday is now underwater. That could be a big sentiment shift on a name like this. The SPY did a little dip and rip there. So we're keeping an eye on that. Again, no trades from any of the algos so far today, as everything that I see is just chopping around for now, waiting for the man.
Short, guys, short on the black box stock, right? Trying to take my money that I gave them on the upside. I'm trying to take it back now on the downside and take some more money, right? We'll see what happens here, guys. For me, it's now rejecting 5. That's very important. As long as it can keep underneath 5 now, I'll just look for it to take out the lows. 450s, that's the next spot there. I'm thinking about adding right here, but it's tough. It's tough. I don't want to go too big because then on little pops, you start to get the pressure of getting out, right? So I'm trying my best to wait for the 450 to show up and then hit another 50 shares. Look for the bigger breakdown there. We'll see what happens. KRE stopping me out there. Let's see what I got there. I'm pretty sure break even on the out. They lost $3, $18 out of all that, right? So I gave myself the shot there on the KRE. And at some point, it just gets to the point where it's like, if it's not going to go, it's not going to go. We'll see if it can keep going. Maybe I can scalp it through the 63.40s. But the SPY was just kind of chomping. It was going down to the bottom. We'll see if it can go and now take out the highs. But there was a big bar to the downside.
Yeah, and you know, again, exactly kind of what we thought when we were getting ready for the day is that it's a choppy day. Right? We have a big news event. We're at a major area on the markets, right? This is, I think, more than even the Trump speaking that's important, is that, right, if you just look how much we've ran here, this is a pretty sizable move from the bottom to the top on something like the SPY. And you're talking 6% in just a number of days. Pretty substantial move. And now we're oversold, right? To take whatever oscillator you want, your RSI, your stochastics, your DeMarca, whatever it is, we're at highs and we're oversold. So with that, and then you combine that with a big news event coming up in a little bit, again, very choppy. So you got to focus on, if you've got profits, take them. We do have a little bit more action tomorrow with flash PMI. I don't think that matters nearly as much as what's happening today. I think today is going to be the show. Defensive stocks still holding well. Bitcoin still holding well. So that makes me think that we're certainly not entering any sort of risk-off environment, because those things probably wouldn't be doing the best if we were. So now it's just a simple, right, what's going to happen here when it comes to what's being said. Again, looking at the heat map, this is as mixed as you could possibly see it, where, you know, things that are up 0.16 and then they're down 0.09. So there's really nothing huge up or down one way or the other, except silver. Silver, you're just getting shellacked. I don't really know why, but kind of looks like it's breaking down. I guess
GUBT going right back up, guys. 1142. It just undercut earlier when I was talking about like maybe the 11 dip and then coming back. That's pretty much what it did. It's back towards 1145. Doesn't look too bad there. Just looks interesting, right? I've talked about how 12 is the resistance on the daily, 7 is the support. So it goes right back towards pretty much 12 today, right on the hammer, and we'll see if it goes back up there today. Who knows? Maybe there's a quantum mention coming soon. Who knows, right? I think in these stocks, you're definitely playing in the middle of the daily charts. And when you play in the middle, it's very hard edge, right? So we'll see what happens there with the quantum names.
Yeah, you're right. You know, if you zoom in on the daily chart, you're still inside this big candle from this kind of dead cat bounce that we've had. You haven't been able to break one way or another on this candle, so it's very hard to get too excited one way or the other. But for short-term trades, right, these things are crazy volatile. So yeah, it's a good one to keep an eye on, even though just hard stuck inside of this candle. A weekly chart might be a better idea. You can see this bar on the weekly right after we fell apart here, and you know the high of that is 1250, and like you mentioned, the low of that is around 7. So We're just kind of popping about.
Well, you guys see me doing a little shaky. There's a reason why. Let's talk a little bit about what I'm seeing right now. Not feeling too bad about the black box. Let's just say that much. Black box not looking too bad on that first downside action. Hammered it a little bit there and added a little bit, like 50 shares there. So definitely seeing the black box take the hit now to the 430s, looking good there. So what I was looking for, that flush through the 450s, right? That's exactly what I saw there on the tape. Now going down to the 420s. This is what I'm talking about, guys. So what the only thing that I would say is today that at least I did right was I had the mentality of the 470 breakdown, right? Early in the market, I didn't come after it because it kind of washed to the 450s. I said, maybe let it come back above 5, give that look like it wants to break out, come back through 5, and that's going to be a big level to watch now. If it can't get back through 5, I highly doubt this stock can get back up there, because the also thing that happened on this one is yesterday was what? Hundreds of millions of shares. What is it trading today? Only hundreds of thousands, right?
Yeah.
And so it's going to need a lot of volume for it to start working its way and really chugging along to the upside. In my eyes, this could be an all-day fader. So at this point, I can just watch it. And this is one of those where I'll wait for it to get down to, like, let's say closer towards 4, and then I can put a break even on, walk away for the rest of the day, see what happens.
Yeah, these things can certainly reverse, right? Something comes out and
the news of them selling could come out, right? And the next thing you know, it's back towards 5, right? So I think I just got to let it work now. Just let it do this. Let the market do the work now.
Yeah, because all they have to do is come out and say, we're not selling, right? The rumor is not true. And then you could just give it all back. You could be right where you were. Came very, very close to yesterday's, so the 2-day VWAP. So yesterday's VWAP today came super, super close to that. So
we're getting a question in the chat. So you can trade stocks with Trade the Pool? Of course, that's exactly what you can trade, my friend. Not options, not binary options either, not Forex, but got the stock game for you guys. So if you guys are stock traders, definitely check it out. Of course, you guys can go to our website to check out and learn more. And of course, like I always say, check out this new limited deal we got. I mean, it's really the best deal I think we have right now. So if you haven't checked it out before, go ahead and take a look.
And to be honest, right, dipping my toes back into, I do trade Forex. I've got some systems for that and all of that, but
Qualcomm hot, man. Qualcomm hot.
They don't have the intraday action. If you're looking for intraday action, I definitely think stocks are where to go, because you always got something moving. Got some quantum computing or something, but
yeah, Qualcomm looking good. It was on the Playbook just yesterday, right? And it's continued today. I like the hourly long pullback. Another look towards the washout recovering, right? On that one, it just seems to me like it's on a longer 15-minute trend, including yesterday's action where the support was around the 170 and 169.50s. That area looks like it got bought up. We're right back towards 170, 150s. Let's see if it can continue to hold. There's some stocks that are not doing too bad. Not doing too bad.
Yeah, the
Apple recovering to new high of day.
Well, that's gotta help things out.
Yeah, remember yesterday's at 220, that monthly support. It's starting to look more and more like the big boys were like, oh yeah, somebody knock on the door of some analyst and tell them to put a nice sell rating today.
Yeah, we need to. It's hilarious how those sell ratings come out on the bottom.
On the bottom, dude. On the bottom. I mean, let's just say somebody has a good phone book, a directory. Let's just say that much. Because that's what I was seeing. I was like, okay, well, yeah, you undercut. Apple looks scary, but really underneath the hood, has anything broken at Apple?
No,
nothing is broken, guys. Just mentions of China and India battle, right? Essentially, right? And to me, that makes complete sense that Apple's trying to diversify their manufacturing to other places than China when you have Trump as president, right? Like, just makes complete sense. If anything, I'd be pushing the gas pedal more and more. I'd be like, yo, Trump, how about you give us a little deal and I'll move more and more out of China, right? I mean, I'd be
Yeah,
knocking on the door.
and I would get this kind of action if the rest of the Mag 7 wasn't doing so well, but actually if you go MAGS, just the Mag 7 ETF, nice little breakout of this consolidation. So this is happening without the participation of Apple. Just imagine what's going to happen if we get the participation of Apple, right? So if Apple starts to play ball price wise, as everything else is kind of breaking out here, looks great. Yeah, so it's going to be pretty good. And if we go again, Apple, nice bounce. Funny, yeah, right at this this support here. If we talk, 220 came down to 220. Look at the candlestick pattern. So this is with pre-market on, pre-market off. It's kind of the same thing, but it doesn't really matter. Where you come down to a level one day, bounce significantly from it. Come down the very next day, bounce significantly from it. Technically speaking, called a tweezer pattern, one of my personal favorites in the candlestick world. Just tells you that there's someone pops in a buy program at 220 and just flicks that on, say, okay, let's buy 220 and go from there. So the question is, how much of a bounce is going to happen here? We're still very oversold on all of the indices. I wouldn't be shocked if we fill the gap. That's 229. Could be a pretty decent move. So from a swing trading point of view, you could have a little scalp there.
All right, back into KRE here, guys. Going for the push here. Let's see if we can get it. Looking around, I'm seeing a lot of stocks kind of pushing. Apple leading the way. So I see tech kind of driving this rally, at least until maybe Trump speaks. So we'll see if we can get this to actually lift off the Qs here. Looking right now at the Qs overall, 529 on that support. A lot of wicks in that area. Let's see if it holds 529 here, back up towards the 529.50s.
So old black box hitting the 2-day VWAP here. So again, this is the VWAP from the craziness that happened yesterday. And if you go to zoom in a little bit, the exact price for the average price was 410. We came right down there. Below was 412, bouncing a little bit. So we'll see what happens. Again, I think this is the major price that could be defended, because this is, again, the average price of all the craziness that happened yesterday, plus a little bit of craziness that happened today. If this goes, it could be a wild drop.
All right, let's see if the KRE wants to give it to me. The Q's pulling back a little bit there. SPY kind of propping up a little bit. Financials leading the market right now, and that's another reason why I'm still in the KRE, guys. And I've talked about how I've seen financials be really strong. Could be, I think, one of the best sectors in 2025, just based on regulation and what could come in. And Trump, he's going to give him the ability to make money. And I think that's one thing that I'm looking at for the banks to continue. Let's take a look really quickly at some of the other banks, right? Bank of America having a hell of a day. That was another one that I was kind of looking at the daily and thinking, well, it keeps holding that trend. And, the trend's your friend, guys. In this case, look at the trend line. Really nice trend line on Bank of America. Came back to it. Now starting to work right back up, right? Had an earnings gap, filled the earnings gap. Now starting to come back.
Yeah, and right, if you are a bank, what you want is lower interest rates and less regulation, and that is what has been promised. So if that is what is delivered, right, what there's absolutely nothing else that you possibly need, right? You want, hey, get out of my way. Let's go back to maybe pre-2008, where I could lend a whole bunch of money and not have any, and then have interest rates be lowered. Those are the two things.
All right, talking Bank of America, missed that KRE downturn here, so it should be out at the 63.20s here. Got a quick flush towards the 63.13s here, guys. Got to determine if I'm just going to get out and take the major hit, but definitely taking the hit really quickly here on the downturn there. I think the Qs got a little weaker there. The SPY gave a little bit of an attempt there. Really looking at the Qs here to see if we can really start to work our way right back up above the 529. Apple's still at the high of the day and pushing, so just keeping an eye on that.
Yeah, just do a bit of a round out when the sectors here and the indices. Right, the SPY, I wanted to short it way up here, never got there. So just consolidating these two lines I drew right on the open. We broke them a little bit and just right back into it, just showing we have not moved in the market pretty much the entire day, which again, these are the hardest markets to trade, especially on a short-term basis. And then the Qs, we have done absolutely nothing, right? Mark the highs, the lows. The Q's done less than nothing today. Just showing that even with Apple moving, there's got to be a lot of stuff under the hood that's selling off. So we got no movement there either. We do the IWM and no movement there either. So everything is very, very choppy. Going to the heat map again, seeing a couple of these sectors still blue, which means absolutely no change at this late in the day, is kind of funny. Then everything here is down either, and just look at the gradings of them. So the more light green means it's up more, and then the more dark red, and there's not much of that, right? Everything's pretty dark green and dark red, just saying, hey, nothing's very up. Nothing's up a lot, nothing's down a lot. Everything's just kind of consolidating. Bitcoin reversed pretty heavily. Let me see USD, what's going on there? So yeah, wild action. I don't know what's going on here in Bitcoin, but a massive pop here in the 5-minute chart from 102 to 105, so 3,000 points higher on Bitcoin, just to then fall another 2,000 points, and now we're rallying 1,000 points. So things are going a little crazy here in crypto land. There must have been something. Let me see if I can find it that came out that got everybody very happy and then very spooked.
All right, at least feeling better about the KRE here with the Qs going right back to the highs. 529s held there really well. SPY looking strong towards 606.10s. Apple just made a new high, pushing well. Qualcomm looks interesting off 171. Starting to see Tesla with a nice little drive higher. I'll take a look at Google also. I'm really keeping an eye on Google's 200. So today it just goes above 200, back towards 200, now right back off of that 200. So I think that's a more of that institutional style look, that if you're looking at like different stocks out there, Google looking really interesting today off of that 200 recovery. So really nice. This 200, man, Google's been trying to do it, been trying to hold it. You can see how it's been trying to base there and like just hold off the resistance there. I'm looking at that MACD trying to cross, right? Can they take it to 201, 202 today? Who knows? After Trump, it could be at 205, right? Yeah. I mean, so I'm just watching this as one of the strongest and best names on the top end of the range of the big boys. Meta, same thing, right? Remember how we've been looking at that kind of bumper area on the trend line? Coming right to it.
Yeah, I think that's just, again, we kind of nailed the theme right off the open here. Is just everybody and everything is waiting. The ranges are small in most things, big in some things, right? So something like Qubit, I think, is a perfect example. Let's go to a 5-minute chart, and this kind of, I think, is a great example of just what's happening today and how when a market is in wait and see mode, which you'll often see this happen before FOMC meetings and massive events that we know are happening, is he had a huge push right off the open, and then since then we've been kind of hard stuck in that range. So again, if you need to trade, it's buy the dip, sell the rip type of environment. If you don't need to trade, you're probably better off, right? So it's one of those things. I haven't done much. I've had one thing come through. We can talk swing trading from my swing trading algorithms. These aren't tested. These are the ones that I've been doing myself for many moons. Is this iron, whatever this is, it just came through a revision to the mean kind of system. So I'm watching this one to see if it holds, but I haven't hit a button at all today. So I'm certainly not going to watch the speech. It's just not Canadian.
What?
So
You're not? Come on, man.
Couldn't pay me. He's going to yammer on about something.
SPY getting hit here, guys. Just be careful. It's just as quickly as we went up, just as quickly as we went down. Still the chop continuing out there. Ranges not being able to break. This is when the market makers make their fun.
Yeah, and that's very important to note, right? The last thing you want to do is be over trading something like this to the upside or the downside and just getting chopped up. So whatever is going to come out and say, it's funny, I just said I wouldn't watch it, but might be interesting. You never know with the guy, what he's going to come out. It might actually end up being funny, but you know, it is pretty obvious to me as someone who just watches the market full time. They're waiting. Everyone's waiting. That little drop came, and now there's buyers coming back in. You know, there's just nothing is happening. Everything is just waiting until this event. So yeah, take your shots here or there, buy dips, sell rips, do that kind of stuff.
All right, today, guys, we're going to do a little bit of kind of a look into some tickers, right? Let's take a look at the top 3 stocks trending on different. We can just go by percentage gain, something like that, and kind of break it down. Maybe take a look at some unusual volume scans. Really, we're just trying to point towards trending tickers right now, right? I think this is very important to stick to, guys. If you're not having scanners and systems to try to find where the relative strength is, well, that's a tough look, right? Because I think that's where a lot of the traders go anyways. So it's definitely important to take a look at that. We can take a look in a little bit into this. I know Michael has some easy ways to look at this too, but I'll look into it just a simple way. I have just a little scanner here that I can take a look at to take a look at what's kind of up on the day, right? Net change, things like that. But looking at the bigger stocks, one area that's having a really good day, Netflix. And I had this one pegged a little bit earlier, a little annoyed that I didn't really bring it up because I had these kind of resistance and support drawn from the pre-market. It broke that 960s, recovering today after yesterday's kind of earnings pullback, right? And what did it do? It broke the support, now starting to recover that. And a lot of people love earning stocks that do this gap up, test like the lows, and then really start to go breaking back through that earnings gap, right? So like a stock that I could compare to this, like recently, like AVGO, right? Very close to stock there that not similar in what it does, but kind of that gap in play where it pushed, came back, and then it starts to kind of build in there. Now you're looking to see if it can break out through the 250s. Let's see what happens on Netflix. And can it get back through the 1,000 spot? I remember when Netflix was down to like 500, 300, 200. I mean, crazy to think that people were betting against Netflix in the long run. I mean, look at that run. What a run.
Yeah. There was a lot of, it's funny that people waiting for the bear market and just forgot that we just had one. we just got out of one. Like you look at Netflix, Apple, a lot of these things were in 60, 70, 80% drawdowns. They were having a bad time. One thing that I always look at, I've done a lot of, searching for, if you're just looking for the thing that's moving the most, a nice free option that's pretty good in real time is just stock twits, right? So the stock twits / sentiment, I don't pay for any. You can get a lot of tickers if you pay for their edge, and I got to put up with ads and everything. But the thing is, if it's talked about a lot, it's definitely going to be moving. You're not going to see a lot of things here that aren't doing well. So we can go through some of these. Bitcoin, been talking about a little bit all day, and then the next one is ASTS, right? So you can take a look at these and see what's moving, gapping down, right? It's funny. I marked this anchored view app from this all-time high a long time ago. My idea was if we can ever get and hold through this level, then that might be interesting. But just look at this. It hits it and then fails, then hits it and fails over and over and over and over again. So gapping under support, looking kind of bad here on the space side of things. But yeah, you can just go down this list. Is DGNX. I don't know what this is, but it's been kind of lighting up the scanners all day. It's a brand new issue. So do a shorter term chart. Very interesting. Diginix Limited. No more data. So traded for
Digimon, digital monsters.
What is this? What is this chart? What are you even looking at here?
Digimon, dude. It's like a Pokemon, but better.
Traded for like 10 minutes yesterday at $4, and then it traded for a few minutes today at 17. I don't. Someday I'll get one of those. But what else is going on?
Black Box is trying to come back and get me.
One of your faves, NNE, is high up on the stock.
Yeah, man. NNE, man.
Oh, nice breakout here. I still have my SMR, so that's doing well, not as well. It looks like I picked the wrong one, but
Yeah, that 25 recovery early in the day. Look back and scratch my head on that SMR. Nice recovery of that 25 today.
yeah, and the beauty of this list is it's just what people are talking about on StockTwits. So again, you're not going to get something that people are super heavily talking about more than normal and not have something interesting occurring in it. So again, it's a nice free way to take a look if you upgrade to their Edge. I don't even know what it costs or how many it is. You get all these scans, but generally speaking, if you're looking to day trade, you can grab the top 10 here. ARM Holdings, what we chatted about earlier here, did not take, but I was looking at, I don't think it got anywhere near it. Yeah, the Anchor 2-day VWAP didn't get anywhere near it, just kind of sold off right off the open, consolidating at lows. It'll be interesting to see if buyers come in. And after a move like this and a drop, this next move is always, to me, the most interesting and important, because it means people were interested in ARM, then ARM gap down. So, right, what happens? Are people really FOMOing into this name and they're looking to get involved or not? And again, I think that will do a lot to say, hey, this is something that people are very interested in. If we start to bounce from here and we start to kind of get up to that 2-day VWAP, if we just fall apart, then I think that just means there's a little bit of a shot in the pan there.
QUBT coming back, guys. 15 minutes held the VWAP there for about an hour. Now it's starting to recover towards the 1150. Interesting stock, to say the least.
Yeah, wild candles here.
That's an interesting recovery there. I got to go take a look at BlackRock, Black stocks, whatever it is, the black box stocks of all stocks. It's coming back. It's trying to get me, I think, because I have my stop out there, right? And a lot of times I feel like you have your stop out there for too long. You're just showing your hand. You're playing poker with the hand open. You got the pocket aces, but guess what? The dealer knows. The dealer knows. So right there, I just canceled it out there. I'm just going to keep an eye on it, just making sure it's not popping above the 460s. I got 465s, really trying to hold towards like the 480s and make sure this doesn't get back to 5.
It's interesting here, right? This is the 2-day VWAP I drew. You can see last 3 candle lows hitting that pretty much exactly, holding there. So yes, the question is this a dead cat bounce? And then we just fail through that anchored VWAP. If we do, then I'm with you that I think this thing could just be an all day bleeder. But this, I think, price is going to be very important, because again, the VWAP just representing what is the average price of everyone that got involved in this thing yesterday. If they're all wrong, then it's time to go. But we need to see something.
Seeing strength in those quantum names. I'm looking at Rigetti right here in the smaller account. I feel like QUBT is a little bit too far gone now, so I'm looking at potentially playing Rigetti to the upside.
RGTI. Jeez, I keep forgetting. I keep trying to spell it out.
Spaghetti.
So yeah, interesting for 420 highs, and then we have 1350 lows. So you got a nice range there. But yeah, it's just whether everything's in a range. It's whether it's something like quantum computing that's in big range, or whether it's something that's SPY that's in a small range. But everything is range bound. I will say, go here, that my VATE did get triggered from the algorithm, so we'll see what happens today. Again, these are just simulated trades while I start to figure out this algo right here. Came through, got my entry, and then my stops above that high. The other one, which was CHRO, it just hasn't done anything. So that's the other option that will eventually take these off these lists, right? So it's one of these things where we have, the idea is we're looking to fade overbought conditions, right? So something that's crazy overbought on the daily chart, we're looking to fade that intraday. But as my buddy Brian Shannon always says, you can either consolidate, you can correct through price, or you can correct through time. So you can correct through price, meaning you pull back, or you can correct through time, which means it just doesn't go anywhere for a couple days, and then it will no longer be on the list if it just spends 2 or 3 days just moving sideways. What I'm interested in kind of researching then is that if that occurs, do these end up being a potential candidate for a second move? Because if they couldn't correct through price and it just chopped sideways, then hey, do we get that breakout and that spike after that?
One thing I'm seeing, guys, clearly Q's pushing towards the highs, just broke the highs. SPY doing the same thing here. Let's see if we can actually start to get a trend in the afternoon here after an hour of the market here. Definitely seeing the strength come into that. So we'll start to play maybe some upsides. Qualcomm still looking good off that 171. Then I'll look at Google, things like that. But quantum computing showing some strength today.
Yeah, so here on the Qs, yeah, we broke this channel that I drew. 5-minute close above it. Now it looks like we're trying to go this time. I think the obvious first look is kind of a gap fill, which is 2 points higher. Should be a good move. See if we fill that gap, and then we take a look maybe at the SPY. That's breaking higher. That's already filled the gap. The question is, so I'm still watching this kind of 606 to 607 area just to see if we get there. That would be the place that I was looking there in the SPY. Just take a little bit of a shot to the short side.
Right here in Rigetti, right back up to 1440s there, guys. That was one of those where being worried about my other trade just make me not take this one, right? I wanted to take it right there at the 1405s, but I went to go look at the KRE because it's pretty much pressured on my kind of my wrist spot there. So didn't take it, but it's already up there to the 1440s. QUBT starting to get going here. And if it takes the 1460s, it could start moving there. So we'll see what happens there in Rigetti. Quick move from the 14s to the 1444. SPY breaking through the highs there. Q's breaking through the highs. Now things are looking better. Apple just recovered 226. I'd keep an eye out on like Google and things like that. Black box looking good on that end, so I'm not going to stress about that. VIX heading to lows there, so that's a good sign. NNE right at the highs, man. That's the one stock this week and since Friday that, man, I just wish I would have just been playing NNE every single day because it's been a great trader vehicle. Up there now to 42. I mean, it's crazy move there. I'm sure SMR is probably following along too. So
NLR is good here on the list. Yeah, SMR is doing okay. And again, that's just a longer term holding that I have. What's interesting is we now have Bitcoin back. So far today, we've seen Bitcoin lead the leaderboard being up 2% or so. And then we saw it down here in the red, and now it's back here in the green, up a little bit. So there's something going on here. I don't know, again, if people are taking bets, but just look at the 5-minute chart here on Bitcoin. Just, compare this to what's happened recently, which has been pretty much nothing. This was the weekend with all the craziness with presidents launching meme coins and all that kind of stuff. But if you look at the recent action, pretty dull and pretty boring, and then something occurred in through here. So I don't know what's going on, but things are. Kathy Wood is talking about Bitcoin, I guess. Maybe people still Kathy Wood, I guess. Who knows?
Nah, it could be a Trump mention, right?
Yeah.
That's what they're betting on. I'll tell you that.
Well, that's what I mentioned before. I've got some orders in place in case we.
Yeah, man. Just the mention of a strategic reserve or something like that actually starting to get filled or something like that would be something to look for, right?
Yeah, you could get a 10% rip over there. So that could be it. Just people trying to take bets before this occurs and try to, figure out which of these things is going to matter the most, up or down, right? I think that could be hugely important. So other than that, right, we go back to the SPY and we go back to the, what we've been saying all day, that this is going to be a bit of a choppy action. Broke today's high and then put in a big topping tail. So, right, the question is, does this continue or was that it? Do we now drop back into the range for the 17th time today? And really shows the importance and of the kind of pre-market work that we're doing, and we're going through recent news and all of that, because we told you right before the market opened, not the day to really be swinging for the fences and looking to do very like massive trades and big trends and all of this. It's the day just to chill, right? I haven't hit the button. I've got that paper trade with VATE while I'm testing the algo, but even from the swing trading side of things, as someone who's a swing trader, I haven't done anything, and I'm not going to do anything until well after the speech is done, the market has decided on some type of direction. Then I might get involved when it comes to what's happening. But I think like the rest of the world, am just waiting until that speech at 11, and then when it's done, right? You don't, if you got to be a real junkie, and you could trade during it. He says something about Bitcoin, you hit that. He says something about AI, and you hit that. That is a valid play if you're a scalper. But for me, it's more about say what you're going to say and then leave. And then I'll start to look at the charts. I'll look at the market. I'll bring up the heat map, see which one of these are moving in what direction. Corn.
AMD trying to recover 123. I'm looking around to see like Nvidia. Can Nvidia kind of push or something like that? It's starting. It's right at the high of the day right there. So I'm looking to see if it can break 146 today and start pushing. What if Trump mentioned something with Nvidia?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if he even knows or cares what the chips behind the AI are, but the AI does.
He knows they got money.
That's
and people looking at them, right? I mean, that's the reason why he went, towards ARM and things like that. He knows they got money.
Yeah, and it will be interesting because I know that Biden had a big move to onshore a lot of chip production, and I think a lot of the semiconductors are waiting to hear what word is on whether that's something else that will be canceled or whether that's going to be a program that's going to continue, because that would be a big deal, right? If he cancels the poor Intel. I don't know how much of that money that they got, but right, Intel's been really, really dying to get involved in these grants that were going to come through to say, okay, make chips here, do so as a kind of thinking more of it as defense than even economics, right? It's important that obviously you can make chips. We saw that in during COVID, right? If you can't make chips, things get really problematic. So
just risk down, and KRE got back near break even. Sometimes when I feel like I've been stuck in a trade for too long, even though it's coming back to me and coming back into the green, if I don't risk down, a lot of the times the only thing that I've ever felt is if I'm hoping or looking to see that the stock comes back through my level, I'm in at the wrong level. So at this point, it's either break out and just like continue going, or just risk down. And so in my eyes, I'd rather risk down here to make sure if it does go back to 63.10s, I'm not losing what I would have lost, right? And so at this point, just risking down on the KRE is going to help me out there. You guys see it in the bottom. That you see the $31 cut out there, right? I did it also earlier today. That's what's kept me from taking the big hit on the downside on both of these. There was this kind of $10 one, and then now a $31 one. Does it mean that it takes a little bit away from me if it rips here? Yes, but I would rather start to see the rip than just keep trying to push it. One thing that looks good, the SPY and the Qs finally are resolving to the upside, and the SPY had that opportunity there to come down, and it's resolving to the upside. So I'm looking to see what else follows along with it now, right? So financials have been leading the action. I think what's important right now is taking a look at, I have this chart on the right-hand side here, you guys, and what I look at is sometimes what's the change overall, the change percentage from the open, and the last 15 minutes. Now, why the last 15 minutes? Probably what's moving right now. Utilities, financials pushing to the upside, real estate pushing to the upside, healthcare starting to come back, cyclicals, technology, right? You got basic materials. What's coming down? Energy and defensive names are coming down. So that tells me not bad, right? I mean, with technology and cyclicals starting to really push, financials continuing to push, let's see if we can start to see a real lift off in the SPY, especially because at least it's not just technology ran here. You got some bigger names starting to get the lift there. Real estate is one that I was watching for DHI today. We'll see what happens on that one if it can start to reverse.
So I'm watching here actually to see if we peter out again.
Yeah.
And the reason for is just those anchored VWAPs that I talked about before. So we have the 2-day VWAP and we have the VWAP from yesterday's high. They're hanging out right in this area. So, my game plan off the open was if we can rally there and I see some sort of sign, topping tails or something like that, to take a little bit of a shot in, then I would, right? We are overbought on the stochastics here. We are into that zone right there. So this is an area that I'm looking from the future side of things, just to take a little bit of a shot and say, hey, can we maybe just pull back in, retest these highs or something? That would be where I'd look to get in. It looks like I may be missing it here. Let me quickly just go over here. I'm just going to take a little bit of a shot, because we are so far rejecting that price. So that's the idea, right? Probably risk, up into 607, probably above 607. And then just, again, can we get into this 606? So like a 1-to-1 trade, nothing crazy one way or the other, but just looking for hey, can we reject off these VWAPs? Or are we just a little bit overdone, especially on a choppy day like this? Gap fill and the VWAPs. That's the idea behind this particular zone over any other.
Okay, already trying to break it, but not breaking it. Tells me more and more how the risk down for me made more sense. And so now at this point, I'll see if it breaks it or not. And the Qs are riding high and the SPY's riding high. So it's time to go look to see what else can ride high now with it, right? So we'll see what happens with some of those names. Bank of America has been a really hot name. Let's see if it takes the high again. Just came off the lows nice consolidation there around the 46.45 on Bank of America. We'll see what some other names are doing out there. But not a bad day overall, guys. I did want to tell you guys a little bit about the initial jobless claims and why that's such a kind of a concern here. So I want to bring onto the screen here something which is the 4-week kind of moving average, right? And what this is pretty much is telling us is kind of how it's peaked and troughs, right? And so just like we do it on stocks, right? We look at around the support, and it seems like the support has been on the low end of these kind of reports around 210, right? We're got to be a little bit concerned is if we start to get back above kind of the 240,000 kind of jobs, right? If we can get above these resistance, that's when I think you're going to start to see some concern about the overall market, and you'll probably see some rate cuts actually happen. If that doesn't happen, I think we're looking fine. I mean, when you think about it, remember where we came from in the pandemic, right? I mean, a crazy amount. If we go back to the pandemic, it's insane. I mean, there was 5 million jobs, right? Well, look at the trend. The trend is still lower. And what has the trend been since pretty much like 2022? 200,000, right? So unless we start to see over like 250s to 300,000, that's the only thing that concerns me more and more about these initial claims. What do you pay attention to more on, Michael, about the initial claims? Are you more like looking to see the average, just reaction? Because at the end of the day, the numbers haven't really changed in about 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's really just one of those things. Is there a big trend behind it? I don't think the absolute number really matters that much. It's more about, is there a trend there, a trend that we can focus on, a trend that we can keep an eye on. And like you mentioned, there really is none, right? So, just like when you're trading stocks, you got to make sure that you're not just getting swept up in the noise, right? The noise could be just that, right? Hey, we're up a bit, we're down a bit. Who's really concerned? I'm looking to see, is there a sustained trend of people losing more jobs or something like that? That chart to me just looks like, could be seasonality, could be whatever. At the end of the day, as a technician, I need to focus on what the market's reaction to it. That's going to be the most important thing, because you need to know so much to look at an increase in jobs and know that it's not seasonal, and it's not, the people bring in other, hey, I need you to come work on my farm for a little bit or whatever it is. So you need to know really, really intricate details when it comes to what's actually going on there. So for me, it's more important to say, okay, what did the market think of this? And we'll know a little bit more later, but because we have that other event that could skew things, I think it does really make sense to look at what's happening right now. And right now, the market didn't really care one way or another, right? And I think the easy way to compare that, look what happened at CPI. Right? You can go, the market really cared about CPI. When did that happen? Let's go 30 minutes. Yeah, right here. Look at this massive candle on CPI. This is the market really, really caring and really, really concerning itself with a data number. This that you can barely see on the 30-minute charts is the market not caring what happened with this. It wasn't a big enough event. It wasn't a big enough surprise, I guess is a big word for it, that the market really said, okay, we need to trade off of this number. And I think that's important to note because, again, that set up a lot of the theme for today, the theme of let's not get too aggressive. Let's not look to buy breakouts. Let's not look to go crazy one way or the other, because this news number didn't really care too much. Whereas if you take a look at what happened on this CPI day, after this big number, you had a lot of chances to buy dips as we kind of came back in. A lot of good sustained trends occurred after really, really interesting numbers. And yeah, so yeah, it's all about the market reaction. So the SPY is just hitting those two VWAPs, not really moving too much from it. I did take a little bit of a shot right here again on the future side of things, but around the kind of 106.80. I'll take a stop at, I'd say 107.50 or something if we start to get up near those highs. But again, the idea is just to take a little bit of a shot, a little bit of a scalp, just based off a plan that I set up. Take a look at VATE. We had got a little bit as it broke the 2-day VWAP, mentioned that there. Did a little bit of a spike up to the actual initial price, which again is just teaching me again. This is kind of the whole point of why I'm trading these algorithms like this. I'm waiting for the price is definitely the move, but I added to the position up at that $11 area. That's where the initial trade was supposed to take place. Because again, if you look at this, we're up from $4 to 11 on a name that has a history of just kind of falling apart. So we're just taking a little bit of a shot there. Now for a stop on this name, it's going to be like 12.50 to 13. I need to look at the exact number, but it's, again, really wide stops on these because what we're doing is we're going for a high win rate because it's day trading as opposed to swing trading is the idea we have there. I'm working to refine that, but when it got that spike higher, again, add it to position around $11. So the idea is we're hoping that we just kind of break back through these highs right here, showing that we're failing on this last spike up. And if we fail on the last spike up, then it might be time to take the other side.
All right, KRE did break out there a little bit and hit that 40 spot there, guys. I took the ad there, added another 500 shares back to 800 shares at the 63.35s. Looking to go break even here as we start to break towards the 50 spot, and then I'll be looking decent for the breakout if it wants to give it to me. SPY has been continuing to press highs, so I'll look to see if that trend can continue. Any pullback, I can get out break even on this, but just trying to give myself a little bit of cash on the day, even just a little bit in the green today could be a nice move to just continue the path forward, right?
Yeah, nice looking little chart there, right? If it can hold up here, there's really nothing, got a gap fill all the way up at 63.80, which is a big move for a name like that for sure.
Mm-hmm. All right, there's a little small pullback there. Got to be careful here though, because it can always pull back as we have already broken towards the highs. We can pull back to VWAP.
Yeah, and then, what's going on with the overall market and the choppy day. That is
right.
Let's just go this guy here. Yeah, we're sitting up near that high. We're just hanging out there. Not really anything huge happening one way or the other. Watching my VATE on another screen here. Up a little bit on it, but just very choppy action I see kind of all the way across the board here.
All right, guys, just going to risk off the 32s here. It's already pulling back right towards my break even, so I'm going to give it a cent or two, but give it 3 ticks. So I'm giving it $27 on the risk, which will keep me underneath 100 on the day. Let's see if it goes now. Trade set there. I just dropped the stop there. I'll show you guys it right there on the charting here, right from Trade the Pool. Of course, guys, you guys can check out the platform if you're not already doing so. Here it is, and here's the chart trading right there, guys. So you guys see the stop, $27, right? I'm just looking for it to break through the high now Let's see if we can get it through the high and start pushing towards like 63.60, something like that. I wouldn't mind even just taking the cash and run at like 63.60. Take $200 and just get going out of this market, because right now it's been a little bit of a challenge today, right? A lot of chop, and was working my way through it. A lot of that was just kind of risk management, keeping myself in the game there, but it was tough. You can see the buys and sells there a lot on that KRE. And now let's see if it really wants to give me and pay me back some of the risks that I've taken, and then pay me back a little more.
Yeah, and that's the key. When you have a day like this, that again we identify before the open is going to be a chop fest, you keep your risk small, you keep light on your feet, you get in. If it's not working right away, you size out, so on and so forth. We're kind of in opposites here, so we'll see. But yeah, so I am in short the SPY, just at these 8 VWAPs, just looking for a little bit of pullback. I don't even think I'll target the breakout. I'll probably even just target maybe partway through this candle. Again, just
man, I had first the Europeans after me. Now I got Michael after me.
We'll see.
Those Euros sure love those Canadians.
In 2 minutes, it might be your president after you. Who knows? Because he's about to step on.
Who knows, man? I'm getting a little spike there in the KRE, making me feel a little more confident here. But at this point, it's what do I do, right? So a lot of times when I'm near the high of the day, I like to cancel off the stop loss just to give it not the perspective of coming back on me. I know that some people say, but Mitch, you're trading on a simulator. I trade the same way I do when I would trade if I was on a desk in front of Goldman Sachs, right? I think that that's the way you got to be looking at things. And I know a lot of people are not the biggest believer in kind of showing your hand and things like that, but I'm just a believer in a day and age where my orders goes routing through kind of algorithms and things like that. I don't like to show my hand. Only when I show my hand is when I feel I need to, right? In this case, like it's coming back. It's going to probably come back and get me here. I'm going to go ahead and drop it in just a second, but I don't have anything clicked on right now. It's just holding it, right? As soon as I let it go, it starts to show it. And then it shows up in the working order, right? Before the don't let this go, nothing's out there. So this is the way I try to go around it to be ready. But at the same time, hey, you guys can always set actual stops. I like to do more of that manual, but once it starts to get into an area of concern.
Yeah, and again, that's just right, two ways of kind of looking at the same market where, for myself, I want to automate as much as possible, right? Mm-hmm. That's kind of my main mission in life when it comes to trading is I always take a step back. Once a week, I ask myself a question when I'm reviewing my trading. I say, what did I need to be there for, right? What did I need to hit buttons for? Is there anything that I could, kind of treating it like you're being a bit lazy, like, right? What could I have slacked off on and have had the same result or maybe even better? That's one way to approach it. And some people, they're not comfortable with allowing systems to completely automatically trade for them and all that. And nothing's wrong and nothing's right. It's just different ways of looking at the overall market.
Different ways to skin a cat.
Yeah,
I don't know why you would ever want to skin a cat, but
that's a saying for sure.
Here it goes, guys. 63.50 is now starting to climb. Right now I'm up towards like the 82. I could just take this money and run, but since I'm getting the SPY to go along with the spike, you see the spike on the SPY, the 607 now, I'm just riding that momentum. Essentially, I'm riding off the backs of the market, not necessarily KRE, right? And now I just look to see if it can just keep riding higher, right? Unless Trump says anything bad here. When's he start? 11, right on the dot? I mean,
well, that's when they say he starts, so it's one of those.
All right, guys. Well, we got to get going. I was hoping that it would be like right then and there, but you know how this is. This is going to move right here, guys. So be careful out there, guys. I'll tell you one thing. I wish you guys the best of luck. And one thing's for certain, if you're feeling like you're in tough positions or pressured here, you got to make decisions, right? Because the market's going to move fast here. And one of the things that is very tough to do is to get where the market kind of interrupts your trade, right? This can happen all the time where you could be in the best setup and all of a sudden the market goes against you. So this is why a lot of traders always keep the overall market in the corner, right? Even if they're trading a penny stock, they're like, whoa, if the market does this, I got to react, right? So just keep watch out there, guys. We'll see what happens. Any final words for the traders out there before the Trump comes in and shakes it all up?
Just be careful, right? Just understand that he's going to say something, and it's going to move the market huge one way or another. I highly doubt that it will be a meek address. just knowing what we were in the last time. I remember, turning on alerts for his tweets because you could make trades based off those entirely. So something's going to happen, and it's going to shake up things entirely. If you are looking to play swing trades or longer term trades, I think probably waiting until the end of the day probably makes a lot of sense, right? So, wait, hang out, try not to get too emotional one way or another, and just let the market, just like if it was an economic number or a Fed speak or something like that, wait for it all to be done, sit down, kind of do a postmortem of what happened, and go from there.
All right, we'll see what happens, traders. Like always, it's always not one way. It was a battle today, guys, and that's what it's always going to be. The question is, will you be here, guys, joining us and bringing others? If you guys can do us a favor, hit the like button, hit the share button down below. Let everyone know, hey, this is a truly supporting community. It's going to be showing you guys really that processed approach, right? Like we always say, it's not about you learning how to trade like us. It's about you learning how we're going about it, right? Learning some strengths and weaknesses, just like all traders have out there. Keep working on a habit that could improve your trading, right? I always think about this, and you can take this to different books like Atomic Habits, right? What you want to do, guys, is just try to focus on maybe just improving one habit that you're doing wrong. What's that habit? Keep that in your focus, and then you'll start to see a change. I always talk about it. Mistakes are mistakes, but if we don't make improvements, guess what? That's the pure recipe for insanity, right? And that's what we need to be doing. How can we learn? Today, what did I focus on? What I talked about yesterday. What did I talk about, guys? I said I wasn't focusing on my playbook. I was missing those plays. Today, the KRE on it, and I went after it, right? I tried my best not to be so distracted around the market. Still had my plays out there, but focused on the plays that mattered to me most. And that can sometimes help you guys, right? A habit that I might have been doing wrong, tried to adjust it today. We'll see you guys back tomorrow. Keep working, right, guys? Like always, it won't be tomorrow, right? We got Friday tomorrow. We'll be back on Monday. But like always, guys, smash the like. I hope you guys enjoy it, and let us know more and more what you want to see on this show. Is it more strategy breakdown? I know Michael is more than willing to show it. So, hey, guys, you guys keep getting after it. Let us know what we can do for you guys. We'll keep pushing ahead. See you next time right here, TTP Live.